It's the time. You're listening to Henry Riley in for Ian Dale tonight on LBC. Pleasure to have your company. I've been with you here all of this week, with you all of next week as well. This hour, we start with a story which many of my colleagues have been rightly discussing here on LBC. And it's about this booklet to tell us that asylum seekers, and to tell asylum seekers that women and men are equal, that domestic abuse and sex with children is illegal, and guidance about what constitutes rape. Do we have to accept that something has gone badly wrong with our asylum system? And it creates the even bigger problem, as far as I can see it, of what do you actually do about it? Now, if we accept that, it is an inconvenient truth that some, not all, but some asylum seekers, to quote Reform UK today, are a menace, is the word they use. How do you have a system which doesn't let some of these vile individuals, and as I say, clearly not all of them, clearly a handful of them, but how do you have a system that doesn't let these vile individuals settle in Britain? People who are not welcome here, people who will clearly, evidently, do more harm than good, and plainly speaking, are a risk to women and girls. Now, I've been very clear, we were talking about this yesterday evening, that people fleeing persecution, I think, should be given a chance in Britain. If you're escaping genocide in, say, Sudan, if you are escaping war-torn Ukraine, if you are fleeing the disaster with which we and the rest of the West effectively left Afghanistan in, then we are very fortunate in this country, right? We should be able to, we can afford these people a chance for them to contribute, a chance for them to effectively help Britain. But we shouldn't take a chance on people who clearly are lacking in their educational skills on about whether women should be treated equally, about consent, about unwanted whistling and kissing, sexual comments and rape. And I do worry that this sort of strangely written classic civil service handbook or pamphlet that they've been given, I do really worry that that condemns and tarnishes all asylum seekers. I am worried about that. And I think the pamphlet itself does more harm than good. But equally, we clearly can't and shouldn't accept people who would be a threat to us, and in particular, a threat to women and girls. Now, asylum seekers are given this booklet, I've got it in front of me, saying that rape, sexual harassment and domestic abuse are illegal in the UK. So if we accept that this highlights an inconvenient truth, then how should we change our asylum system as a result? 0345 60 60 973 is the number to call. Option one is that you stop people coming in altogether, which I'm not in favour of. Option two is that you let people in and basically give them this booklet and hope that sort of somehow the education that they haven't got in their host countries that they'll suddenly learn, or over a process of time learn. And then option three is that you do what we're doing now and you don't bother with the booklet. Which of those options is preferable? And if not one of those, then please enlighten me and tell me what you think the other solutions are. 0345 60 60 973 is the number to call. Now, this morning, my LBC colleague Nick Ferrari was joined by the Cabinet Minister Lucy Powell, and Nick asked her what's prompted the government to produce this pamphlet.
It's pretty straightforward that we should be explaining to people and being clear about people the expectations, the rule of law in this country.
Why is it necessary? What are the difference in cultures that we're experiencing, do you imagine?
Well, you know, people coming from other countries do have different cultures, and we have to be absolutely clear with people of how much we abide by the rule of law in this country, what the rule of law is about, what some of those laws are, and that if people break those laws, they will be treated very harshly. They will be deported. They would have any claim to asylum, completely squashed at that point as well. So I think it's right that people understand the expectations and the consequences if they break the law in this country, and that's something that we have to constantly educate lots of people about, and that's important that we do so.
Cabinet Minister Lucy Powell speaking with LBC. Later on in the day, Andy Burnham was asked why this document was necessary.
As a government, we have a very clear principle. If you break UK law, you will be removed from the country. And we have seen that in relation to immigration, where removals are significantly up. I'm currently working to ensure that foreign national offenders who can be removed from the prison system are removed from that system. So it follows that if we're taking this approach, people are made it's made explicitly clear what the UK law is and what the societal norms of the UK are, and that's why this approach is being taken.
Andy Burnham speaking earlier on today, and for me this sort of throws up a whole host of challenges, and I would like to know, can I just emphasise what I said right at the start? I think we should be a welcoming country. I think we should be taking in people from war-torn countries, be that the genocide in Sudan, the Taliban rule in Afghanistan, people fleeing the invasion in Ukraine, for example, or of Ukraine by Russia. I absolutely am on board with that. But clearly you can't have a system where you're going to let people in who, bluntly, don't adhere to our values. People who need educating on rape, on sexual assaults, on female genital mutilation. So the system, I think we can probably all agree, doesn't work. This is a very small handful of asylum seekers. Asylum seekers have been coming to Britain for years, and unfortunately and sadly, in a fair few cases recently, there have been some utterly appalling stories. But what exactly is the solution then? 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. Let's speak with Tom Pursglove, who was the Conservative Immigration Minister in the previous government and joins me now. Tom, thanks very much for speaking with us.
No problem.
Did anything like this pamphlet arise, or was it spoken about when you were in the Home Office?
No, I can safely say that I don't believe a pamphlet of that description was ever put to us as ministers when I was in the Home Office, and nor would I have signed that off. I'm staggered that this document has been published by the Home Office. I think there's serious questions that ministers need to answer about the content that they were willing to sign off. And this is a damning indictment on this government and the illegal migration picture that we see, and is an acceptance by ministers and by the Home Office and by the wider government that people coming here illegally are acting in a manner that is inconsistent with our values as a society. And let's not forget that all of those who are making these channel crossings are breaking the law in coming here in that way in the first place. And they were banned
not when they
from
claim
having
asylum, of course, but yeah.
But these channel crossings were banned in legislation, and what we have seen is this government make deliberate policy choices that have wound that back. In the Conservative government, we put down a law that said that people who arrive illegally would be banned from having asylum. This government repealed that. They've removed all of the deterrents around it. And what we are seeing is a situation where people cannot be in those who perhaps would benefit from the right support from around the world. And I think that's unacceptable too.
How do you make that distinction then between people who are clearly fleeing war-torn countries and that I would argue we have a duty to help, and others who are coming in who clearly, even if they don't have malign intentions, have malign values?
Well, when you consider the Cameron government, for example, the work that they did was very specific in working with the UNHCR to identify the most vulnerable people from around the world and bringing them to the UK through a structured process where we saw conflicts. That was the right thing to do, for example, in response to what happened in Syria back in 2016. And what we now have is a picture where our ability to be able to help those most vulnerable people is constrained by the bandwidth that illegal migration occupies. When you see thousands of people coming across to our country illegally every year, abusing our laws, abusing the British taxpayer, and what we're seeing is a surge in criminality as well on the back of this. That is an unacceptable picture. This is not something that is sustainable. It is not something that continue. And I really do think that ministers need to get a grip. Well, they need to have a deterrent again, and they need to remove people.
But if we do clamp down on small boat crossings, and I'm all in favour of that, by all means, stop the boats, smash the gangs. It's something which no one wants to see. Then clearly you need safe and legal routes, don't you?
But
of which there are none.
I think it's fair to say that you would have greater ability to be able to support people in the event that we weren't dealing with this illegal migration crisis. And, for example, legislation introduced an annual cap, which was about looking to local authorities and and charities and organisations across the country through legal migration to identify the most vulnerable people from around the world, not those getting in small boats, not economic migrants trying to get to the UK, and then having the proper support in place with all of the right screening and making sure that we weren't bringing people to this country, either who are perhaps a national security risk, and undoubtedly the situation with the Channel presents national security challenges that every citizen in this country should be concerned about, but also where people's values are incompatible with those of the UK. And Kemi, as she said today, is completely right that these individuals who do not understand that they ought not to be raping people or not be abusing children are not welcome in this country and ought not to be here.
But how do you make that distinction when they're coming in? I don't understand. Is it through a pamphlet like this? Is it during which time they're being processed and they're perhaps not allowed out, which they are at the moment? I mean, I don't understand. How do we make that distinction between who is potentially someone who could go on to sexually assault someone?
Well, I wouldn't have any illegal migrant here in the UK. I would detain and remove every last one, and that involves having a Rwanda where you can't remove people back to country of origin, Eritreans, Sudanese,
but what about asylum
Iranians.
seekers?
But also, that involves changing the laws and being willing to deal with the ECHR and the various conventions. Then what you have is a properly managed legal migration route with the proper support, the proper screening, the proper kind of pre-checking exercises with proper FaceTime with officials and others, working in partnership with the likes of the UNHCR to identify individuals who would benefit from coming here. But what I'm talking about there is far, far, far smaller numbers than that which we're seeing. The British taxpayer, the British people are being completely abused by the status quo. It's not acceptable and it's not sustainable, and people aren't going to put up with this any longer.
Do you worry, though, that this does tarnish all asylum seekers? I mean, if you look at in the UK, 30% of people don't recognise that being married or in a relationship unwanted or that consent can't be assumed and that effectively it's rape. 30% of people don't recognise that in the UK alone. I mean, does this not just demonise all asylum seekers?
I think that there will be perfectly law-abiding, decent people who will inevitably lose out as a consequence of the behaviour of others. But you have to take a firm line on this. And if you come illegally, you shouldn't be able to stay here. People ought to be able to come here if they follow the rules in a properly managed way, where the UK government decides what is appropriate in terms of the number of people that we can support. That's the fair, well-managed migration system that I think the British people expect, and I think there's a duty and an incumbency on politicians to deliver that. What we see at the moment is losing all public trust and confidence in all immigration. All immigration, both legal and illegal, is now seen through the prism of small boats and asylum hotels. That is a terrible state to be in. There are people who come to this country through the legal migration routes who make an enormous contribution to business and our public services, having completed those proper processes. And that is the right way to come to this country. And when it comes to the humanitarian routes, we could be more generous had we not got this situation with illegal migration. But I'd also point out that in recent years, we saw a very generous response to the situation in Ukraine, in Afghanistan and in Hong Kong. That is an example of what can be done where there is public support and public trust and confidence in those processes. But if you don't command that trust and confidence, I don't think you can have the level of generosity that some would like to see.
But what are the legal routes currently?
As I say, what you've had is, in recent years, you've had the Ukrainian scheme, you've had the Hong Kong B&O scheme.
But not if you're fleeing Sudan, for example, or other countries.
But there are, that is exactly why what we were seeking to do as part of changing the whole system, dealing with illegal migration robustly, banning those who arrive illegally from having asylum and removing those individuals. The flip side to that was then having a properly managed and controlled legal migration offer, whereby perhaps working with the UNHCR, as I said earlier, working with local authorities and with charitable organisations and others to identify the most vulnerable people, perhaps very vulnerable children, or individuals, perhaps very vulnerable young women, to be able to come to the UK. But I think all of that is being squeezed out because people are absolutely furious for good reason at what they're seeing in terms of the Channel and the consequences and the knock-on in our society with the criminality, but also just that unfairness inherently on the taxpayer who's picking up the tab.
OK, thank you for your time, Tom. Tom Pursglove is a former Conservative immigration minister, joining me there to kickstart our conversation with regards to this. I know it's something my colleagues have spoken about throughout the day, but keen to get your thoughts on it. And look, Kemi Badenoch says that some cultures have worse values than ours. I'm paraphrasing. What does she actually say? She said, not all cultures are equally valid. If so, how should our asylum system reflect that? Reflect the fact that there are different cultures. People take boys soldiers, for example, who are brought up effectively to brutalise women in some cases. How do we change our asylum system so that we effectively get the right people and that those who are a threat aren't allowed in? And that we don't have to issue pamphlets to people telling them not to rape or sexually assault and that it's illegal. And it also says the word could throughout, could end up in jail, which I think highlights our criminally low prosecution rate when it comes to rape and sexual assault. What are your thoughts? 0345 6060 973.
This is LBC.
Switching to Vodafone full fibre broadband is now as easy as pie. Oh, freshly baked. It's a walk in the park. Hello, little fella. It's like taking candy from a baby. Come on, as if I'd do that. With One Touch Switch, it's easy. We sort everything out for you. We even contact your current provider. Plus, we'll help towards leaving fees. Switch today to full fibre broadband with Vodafone.
Up to £200 credit to cover leaving fees. More information and terms at vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
At Waitrose, you know you're a food lover when the delicious 3 for £8 deli spread is what you remember from the garden party rather than why you were having it in the first place. Make it a summer to remember with 3 for £8 on our Moorish deli range, including creamy mozzarella balls with fresh basil pesto and pine nuts, juicy black garlic chorizo with wildflower honey, and aromatic Thai green chicken meatballs. Available now at Waitrose, the home of food lovers. Selected stores and lines, subject to availability. Prices may vary in Channel Islands, Little Waitrose and Partners and concessions.
Here, we see a family, completely asleep. No arguing, no bickering, not a peep. Remarkable. When you travel by train with Southeastern, you unlock 2-for-1 entry and great discounts at over 150 attractions across London, Kent and East Sussex, like London Zoo, the Cutty Sark and Dover Castle. Job done with 2-for-1. Terms and conditions apply. Search Southeastern Railway 2-for-1. Buy your train tickets direct and pay no booking fees.
Henry Riley on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
7:21, taking your views on this pamphlet that has been issued today. Asylum seekers have been told that rape, sexual harassment and domestic abuse are illegal in the UK, and guidance for new arrivals published by the Home Office. It's given in the form of a pamphlet. I'm making the argument that I think it highlights an inconvenient truth that a very small proportion of asylum seekers, not all of them, there are many people who I think we should be letting into our country because they've come from war-torn countries, but nevertheless, if you have a situation where some go on to commit appalling crimes and some come in with attitudes as men that women are not equal, I mean, even worse than not equal, then what do you do about it? Do you just say... well, I'm keen to know how you sort of fix that situation. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. People come from different cultures. We know that. So how exactly can you go about integrating them? I suppose you can't if they have some of these views. But how do you even work that out in the first place? Let's go to Thomas, who's in Northumberland. Hi, Thomas.
Hello, Henry. Good evening.
Evening. What did you want to say?
First of all, I think you are a great presenter. I love your work, and I hope you have years of enjoyment in what you do to come.
Thank you. Just email the bosses. What did you want to say?
Well, Henry, I think we can hear a totally different discussion going on all afternoon with your colleagues, Nick and Sheila, who I took highly offense to because Miss Sheila all afternoon talked about violence of men against women. In this country, for every 3 attempts of violence that the police knows of, 2 are done by men and 1 is done by a female. So for your colleague to all afternoon mention and only mention violence of men against women as a man who never laid a hand on men.
Well, Tom,
Thomas,
I don't want to fall out with you, but I think that violence against women and girls, mostly perpetrated by men, is something which feeds into this discussion pretty well. I think it is something worth highlighting.
And therefore, I think the whole discussion is, you said, the pamphlet that the government has handed out to these people in boats, that's what we need to discuss about. Well, to be fair, it's education. And I am a retired nursery manager, and for the last 20 years of my education, I'm telling you that PREVENT in early years and FGM in early years are absolutely embedded, which is female genital mutilation, and PREVENT, which is looking for radicalization in kids and families across the board. These things are well embedded, so it is admitting, yes, that there is a problem and we need to do something about it. And this pamphlet is nothing else but admitting that, yes, there is a problem. Some of the people who sit on these boats, come in this country, commit horrible crimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you do then?
That is a fact. The fact is that, imagine that the pamphlet, Henry, is the difference between 10 less women a year getting raped in this country. Would you then not say it's a success?
What, if it leads to that?
If it leads to 10 women not being raped.
Sure,
but there you go.
But if people coming in, but Thomas, if people are coming in as adults and they already have the view that they didn't know for some reason that raping a woman is not okay, that is illegal and should be prosecuted. I mean, that is surely inviting trouble in some cases, is it not?
Why are we in this country sitting on the moral high ground when it comes to determining what other people do? I'll give you an example. The figures of the National Statistics Bureau of Home Domestic Violence says that in this country, the last year, the police was notified of 1.4 million cases of domestic violence. Now, we can all conclude this is not all done by brown people.
Of course. Yeah, I'm not saying that for 1 minute, but the issue does come to, if you're letting people settle in the UK, and in some cases, look at Piddington, where people are going to be staying, outnumbering the population by 2 to 1. I mean, you can understand why people feel uneasy. And unfortunately, that's led to racism and it's led to riots, neither of which are acceptable. But you can understand why people are uneasy about it when they read some of the stories in the press.
But I thought the discussion was about the pamphlet. I said from the start off, where all these people should come in boats and should be granted asylum and should be granted all the money they're getting or not. This is a totally different discussion. What I'm saying is that the leaflet that's been given is education. It's acknowledging that some people need education. Now, Henry, why do all our children in our country get sexual education? The matter of the fact is that if they don't get educated in the matter of sexual qualities and equalities, they would not know.
But is it not harder to educate
decision.
Adults than children who go through years of education throughout their schooling life, which then progresses about, what consent is, for example?
Yes, but you are talking about people who come from countries where all these things are literally in the Stone Ages.
Sure.
Stone Ages. We are not talking about people who come from Germany and France and Denmark. We are talking people who come from absolute places where women have no say in life, men have everything to say in life, people who lived in war and bombs and you name it. We're not talking about people who are, in that sense, equal to the education that we receive. So what is wrong with acknowledging that some people might not have the right education behind them, and we need to help them to understand that if you come here, you need to know what is expected of you.
Thanks very much, Thomas in Northumberland. Thanks for the kind words as well. Let's go to Kelly, who is in Lambeth. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, so I'm quite enraged with this topic.
Okay.
So everything that's on that pamphlet relating to asylum people, can they just not say what's right? It's men. It's men. And this applies to the men of this country too. So it should be said loud and proud, the men coming over and the men of the country as well. Because the men here need to put that into their heads as well. We get all of that happening here from the people that live here. No, sorry, not the people, the men.
Yeah. Well, I know, and I take your point on that, but the reality is a lot of these people who are seeking asylum are men as well.
Yes, granted, so please say the right words. It's not for the people coming over. This is directed at men, but they don't want to say it directly. Why not? I don't
Well, you think
understand.
this pamphlet should be given to all men?
It should be it should be stated loud and proud
But in
from
fairness,
every
don't we-
media. Men,
I
so
get
the
what you-
migrant men and the men of the country,
Yeah.
because the men that live here as well, white, black, Asian, mixed
Oh, I
race, whatever
agree.
they are, they also need to be told.
I agree. I suppose the only thing I would say to that, Kelly, is have we not had these pamphlets as men? And clearly it hasn't worked in a lot of cases, and there are some vile men who are sort of obviously homegrown, to use that phrase. But we have sexual education in our schools. We have consent
It doesn't work,
lessons.
though, does it?
No, but I'm sure these sort of similar pamphlets are given out at lessons, for example. Whereas
Can
a
I
lot of the
ask
people...
why pamphlets? Why not just put it out on TV? People watch TV, put it on social media. Why pamphlets? Who reads anymore? Put it out where people have to pay attention to it.
But in what form? I don't really understand what you mean. I mean,
Social media,
Yeah.
TV,
Oh, yeah, sure.
adverts, all those sort of things. But again, nothing can be said to the gender that actually attacks the
I
more
agree with
vulnerable
you.
gender
I agree with you there.
directly.
But the question then arises, Kelly, what do you do if someone who is coming into the country who is extremely vulnerable by dint of where they're born and where they've, in some cases had horrific treatment, where do they go if they think that rape is acceptable in their culture, for example,
Someone
or
who's
sexual
extremely
harassment?
vulnerable. If someone can rape another person and think that that's acceptable, they're not vulnerable.
Well, how do you explain this leaflet then, where clearly there have been cases of sexual assault of asylum seekers coming in? I mean, what do you do? How do you even ascertain whether that those are their intentions?
Well, the exact same way you're ascertaining them for the homegrown men. How are you doing that?
Well, I agree. More needs to be done, but with the homegrown people, there's probably a police file on a lot of domestic abusers, and rightly so. Whereas you take the case of Hadish Kabatu, who came in, the individual who tried to kiss a girl on Epping High Street and sexually assaulted his tutor, who then actually went on the run because our prison service managed to lose him. But anyway, I mean, what do you do? And I'm not saying I've got the answer, Kelly. I'm just posing the question because I don't want to live in a country where we don't let asylum seekers in. Far from it. But I also don't think we should be letting people in who clearly have these views.
Men.
Okay,
It's
men, fine.
It's men.
But it doesn't answer the question.
What was the question? How do we handle that?
Yeah, well, how do you even go about selecting?
Legal routes, that way you can actually vet them. Why aren't legal routes being open for people of colour? But Ukraine, you did straight away. That happened quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, okay, I take your point. I think on the legal routes point, there'd still be a lot of people who would come in through that way who clearly would have malign intentions. But I'm not saying that's not a solution. It's probably a better solution than what we've got now, Kelly. And the former Conservative Immigration Minister was talking about legal routes for Hong Kong, for Ukraine, for Afghanistan. That's great. But as a lot of you have pointed out on the text, well, what about other countries? What about other war-torn countries where people are meant to be coming in from? Why are we sort of cherry-picking what countries we deem as legitimate? Hence why people are coming over on small boats and funding illegal criminal gangs. 0345 6060973. More on that to come. And
begin and in! A goal for the nation! And Scotland are off and running!
well, among the Scotland fans who were there in Boston to watch the start of the Tartan Army's World Cup campaign was the Scottish First Minister John Swinney. But it's been revealed today that the trip to the US for him, his sports minister, and a handful of officials has cost taxpayers nearly $100,000. LBC Scotland political editor Gina Davidson joins me next to explain. 7:32 the time. The news, Matt Hewitt.
The Prime Minister has insisted that security arrangements for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are a private matter. The couple will move back to the UK later this month and enrol their 2 children at British schools. Ministers are defending a pamphlet warning asylum seekers not to rape women or hurt children. Andy Burnham says the Home Office document makes the UK's rules explicitly clear. And detectives have charged a man in connection with last year's Manchester synagogue terror attack. The Iraqi national is due in court tomorrow, charged with failing to disclose information. LBC weather. Showers will mostly fade overnight. It'll feel a bit cooler, lows of 9 to 16 degrees. Tomorrow, showers will be less widespread, though some thundery rain is possible in the west and the south. Highs of 13 to 21 degrees.
This is LBC.
Us kids are mesmerised by the mundane, entranced by the everyday. Where grown-ups see a snail, we that wonder. The good news is, if these are found early, they can be managed or corrected. So book your child a free eye test at Specsavers today. Find out more at specsavers.co.uk/kids tests.
5 across, full of positive swagger. Sorry, at HMRC we can't help you fill gaps in a crossword. But our new website can fill gaps in your pension and tax knowledge. Nothing cryptic, just simple explanations about the basics to help you get tax confident and understand how tax works in retirement. To learn more, search HMRC Tax Confident. Oh, that's it. Confident.
Look, there's a snail, and its eyes are sticking out of its antlers. It looks like an ice cream.
Ella sees a lot more than just a snail. With free kids' glasses from Specsavers, plus a second pair from £10, they'll see a world of wonders. And you'll see a great deal too. So book them an appointment at Specsavers today for free. £10 second pair with free glasses from our £65 and above range.
Conditions apply. See online for details.
Henry Riley on LBC. Text 84850.
In a moment, whether it was a waste of money for the Scottish First Minister to spend all in all 100 grand going to their first World Cup game. First, though, Roshani is in Southfields. Hello there.
Hi, Henry.
Hello.
Good evening.
Evening to you.
I totally agree with the lady that just called in.
Kelly.
I couldn't remember her name.
Right.
Sorry. And I think basically that with one lady or with one woman being killed virtually every single day of the week in this country by their so-called boyfriends or partners, I think it's a problem with most men. I've been married for 31 years and my husband's never laid a finger on me.
Yeah.
He's absolutely lovely. And why can't all men behave like that?
And the men here, whilst there are some absolutely vile people, as you rightly say, and people who are rapists, let's not, shy away from that, people who are murderers, I mean, they know the law. I think part of the issue is a lot of people coming over don't know the law, do they? Hence why they're having to get this pamphlet.
Oh, I totally understand that about the pamphlet, but I think it's got to be, it's got to be a lot. The majority of asylum seekers actually raping women in this country are just minuscule compared to the actual men of this country raping their partners or women in general in this country.
What do you think of this leaflet in the first place then? I mean, I see the Green Party is saying that it sort of tarnishes asylum seekers and the real issue is men as opposed to asylum seekers.
I think it's men in general, but also I haven't seen the pamphlet. People coming over here coming from different countries. They may not be able to read English, so that's probably a problem.
Yes.
So I think I think maybe there's some sort of education when they come in, when they're asylum centres and where they're kept, rather than giving them pieces of paper and, chopping down trees to actually print them off. It's much better to actually tell them in person or in a group what they should be doing or what they shouldn't be doing.
So the solution, as far as you're concerned, is we let people in and give them this pamphlet. And then if they do go on to rape and commit sexual assault, then they're arrested and deported then?
No, that's not my view at all. My view is that they should be educated when they come in. They should be educated in those detention centres about what's expected of them in this country.
Yes. But then if they do go on to commit rape or sexual assault, they're then, deported?
Definitely.
Right. OK.
Without doubt. Thank you.
Thank you, Roshani. Appreciate the call in Southfields. More in a moment. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call on that. Asylum seekers given this booklet saying that rape, sexual harassment and domestic abuse are illegal in the UK, something which definitely shouldn't need saying, but clearly from some cultures does, because things happen which would not be considered acceptable here. So if this highlights an inconvenient truth that some, not all, but a very small proportion of people coming who are seeking asylum are have these views where they think that rape or sexual assault is acceptable or they think it's unpunishable, then how should this change our asylum system, if at all? 0345 6060 973. There are other stories, though, and the Scottish First Minister has defended making taxpayers pay almost £100,000 to fund his sports minister and a few other officials to go to the World Cup for the first game of Scotland's World Cup campaign in June, and then go on to attend some trade talks in America a few days later. LBC Scotland political editor Gina Davidson explains how John Sweeney ran up such a big bill to be part of the Tartan Army masses, which took over Boston a couple of months ago.
Who can forget the wonderful sight of all those Scottish fans in Boston? You'll remember during the World Cup, everybody loved them. John Sweeney clearly wanted to be a part of that, and he didn't know he was going to go to the last minute. So the reasoning from the Scottish government is, well, of course there was a spike in prices at that time of people trying to get to America for the World Cup, and that is why it was so expensive. But it has to be said, he did travel business class. He and his private secretary and one of his chief of staff all went out together, and then after them we had the sports minister go out with her private secretary, but they flew economy class, so their flights were not so expensive, Henry. But overall the bill for flights was £62,000, and then they spent almost £17,000 on hotel bills, and I think this is possibly the most scandalous figure, more than £15,000 for car hire.
What?
Between them, yes, while they were out there. Now, obviously, it all looks like a bit of a jolly on the surface, and I'm quite sure they did enjoy the football and the atmosphere and so on, but they did do some serious work while they were out there. At least the First Minister did, to be fair to him. He was meeting people in the whisky industry, and you'll remember, Henry, also at that time there was a lot of negotiation going on about trying to get rid of those US tariffs that were costing the Scotch whisky industry so much. So that was also part of John Sweeney's reason for being out there. And he has said today himself that they did try to keep costs down, but again pointed to that kind of spike in the prices because of what was going on in America at the time. And it's also fair, I think, to mention that just days after the World Cup ended, President Trump did lift that 10% US tariff on Scotch whisky, which is expected to save the industry around £2 to £4 million a week from here on in. So, I think the Scottish Government will point to that and say it was successful, and the whole trip, all in, everybody there all together, 100 grand was probably worth it.
It reminds me of the iPad gate. Was it Michael Matheson, the then Health Secretary, who spent, I think was it 11 grand on a data roaming bill on his iPad that I think he then repaid. How are people
That's right.
in
Also football related.
Oh, was it? And yes. Oh, yeah, quite right. He was streaming matches, wasn't he? Or rather, members of his family were.
That's right.
And how are the public reacting to this, or opposition politicians?
Well, as you might imagine, I mean, anytime a government does something like this, it sort of infuriates people, because it is, of course, taxpayers' money that gets spent doing it. We've had a lot of political reaction. In particular, the Conservative MSP Stephen Kerr has said that John Sweeney and colleagues were obviously happy to escape all the challenges that were facing them here in Scotland when they headed across the pond. But he makes an interesting comment too, that he says that, if they wanted to go, that's fine, but they should have met these costs out of their own pockets. So it does trigger that whole debate, Henry, doesn't it, about, what is government business, what isn't, what a First Minister should do, what he shouldn't do, what should be paid for by taxpayers and what shouldn't. And as I say, as far as the Scottish Government are concerned, it was a good deal because they got that reduction in the whisky tariffs.
And just to check then, so I read that business class flights should only be used on trips of more than 10 hours, but it seems like Edinburgh to Boston is 7 hours. Do we know how this didn't meet that sort of threshold?
That's right. Again, the answer to that from the Scottish Government is that it was all done in such a hurry, really, last minute, and that those were the flights that they could get. So that is why they ended up having to pay through the nose and more than they would normally, they say. But then, it's one of those things you think, well, couldn't that have been planned a bit better? I mean, everybody knew the World Cup was coming up, and we knew that Scotland had qualified, months in advance, and that quite possibly the First Minister would want to be there at the opening match, and they should maybe have thought about it in advance. So I think Parliament's in recess at the moment, Henry, but I think this kind of issue will come back to bite the First Minister and others when it resumes in just a couple of weeks' time.
You mentioned taxpayers' money. Lastly, I see as well there's a story that they're having to answer for about a £10,000 seaside away day for Scotland's top 8 civil servants.
Yeah, and I think actually this is a sort of story that might prove more damaging in the long run, because this is the Permanent Secretary, Joe Griffin. He is, as you say, the top civil servant in the Scottish Government. He was able to sign off around £10,000 for an away day for him and 7 other senior civil servants off to the beautiful seaside town of Aberlour over in Fife on the Silver Sands beach at a place called the Boat House. It's actually also apparently the headquarters of somewhere called the International Futures Forum. Now that sounds like it should be in some kind of shimmering glass tower block in Edinburgh's financial district, but instead it sits down on the beach where many nursery trips have been taken, I can tell you, Henry, to build sandcastles in the past. And this is the place that they went for this away day, where they were there to discuss apparently what might happen should there be a change of government in the May elections, because this all happened back in April. But away days are a pretty contentious thing. You know, there's been a huge crackdown on them because, you know, the Scottish Government have said that they're not particularly value for money, and you have civil servants even told that they can't provide tea and coffee at meetings in normal government buildings because of the cost. So this is really grating internally with other civil servants, and again is politically a problem, I think, when John Swinney and others return after recess. I mean, the Scottish Government is saying that, you know, this was a strategic session and this was a new leadership team, and it was all designed to ensure that the civil service was ready to deliver for a new incoming government following the election. But again, questions asked about how so much money, £10,000, could be signed off without there being any kind of procurement issue. So again, there's questions about whether or not rules were broken around that because it wasn't put out to competitive tender. So as I say, I think when Holyrood resumes in a couple of weeks, there will be questions for the First Minister about his Permanent Secretary as well.
LBC Scotland political editor Gina Davison. I mean, what a ludicrous waste of money that is. Nearly $100,000 for John Swinney to go and watch the football. And also what I don't understand is, as Gina rightly highlighted, the Sports Minister, Todd, managed to go on slightly cheaper economy class flights. So it does bear the question, do you think John Swinney... Look, do I normally think that politicians should travel economy class? No. I think if you're the Prime Minister, if you're the First Minister, normally you should get business class flights. But did someone not say to John Swinney, oh, John, by the way, slight problem here. These are going to cost us $45,000, these flights, for the three of us. And someone goes, oh, OK, let's do that anyway. I mean, surely you would say, maybe let's not go with the $45,000 business class flights. Maybe let's go in economy. I mean, surely that's what makes a good politician. If John Swinney wants to go and watch the football, great. I'm jealous I wasn't there. And if he's going to throw in an odd talk about Scotch whiskey to sort of, pretend he's doing a bit of work, that's fine. I'm sure he'd argue he was doing work, but that's great. But don't charge the Scottish taxpayer $45,000, particularly when your old health secretary charged $10,000 so his kid was streaming the football on the iPad. And that was a massive story 2 years ago. I'm not saying the SNP have a problem with football, but are there no advisors who could have told him not to do this? It's 7:46.
LBC This Morning on Nick Ferrari at Breakfast.
The government booklet from the Home Office telling asylum seekers not to beat up women when they're in this country. What does it tell you about the supposed border force checking of these people that they get in? Let's get straight to your reaction.
This is just rules, so they understand the rules. They can also be victims themselves. 3 women a week are killed by their partners, by English people. Quite frankly, all men should be given this booklet.
We don't need men from anywhere else coming into this country who can perpetrate the same violence against women. We have enough to deal with.
Nick Ferrari at Breakfast. Back tomorrow morning from 7. Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
When your husband's got his heart set on making the doer upper open plan, enjoy every thudding second of it.
Yes!
Be a step ahead with Barclays Premier. With our exclusive mortgage rates. Barclays, backing your future. Eligibility criteria apply. All mortgages are subject to application, financial circumstances and borrowing history. T's and C's apply. New Barclays mortgage applications only.
Up to speed.
Your Formula One podcast. Round 12, we head to the Netherlands for the Dutch Grand Prix.
New episodes every Monday and Thursday on YouTube or Global Player.
At Waitrose, you know you're a food lover when you're more gripped by the desserts you took to the park than your true crime book. Make it a summer to remember with our dreamy range of #1 summer desserts. Like our secret centre strawberries with creamy mousse and zingy compote in every bite. Or our rich Madagascan vanilla ice cream, rippled with tangy blackcurrant. Available now at Waitrose, the home of food lovers. Selected stores and lines subject to availability.
Big Motoring World is the nation's biggest used car supermarket, so we go big on choice. With thousands of cars like Audi, BMW, Citroen, Fiat, Ford, Honda, Jaguar, Kia, Land Rover, Lexus, Mercedes-Benz, Mini, Nissan, Peugeot, Polestar, Renault, Seat, Skoda, Tesla, Toyota, Volkswagen and Volvo. Whew. Find the car you really want at... Visit bigmotoringworld.co.uk to verify comparison and for T's and C's. Nation's biggest refers to cars in stock.
Enjoy the freedom of unlimited data with Vodafone. Save £288 with an unlimited data SIM-only plan. Hurry, offer ends the 16th of September. Vodafone.
Was £35 on 24-month unlimited plan, 100 megabytes max speed, 5G subject to coverage. Credit check and terms apply. Vodafone.co.uk/mobile.
This is LBC. Message Henry Riley on WhatsApp now. 0345 60 60 973.
7:49. You might have views on the lavish spending of the Scottish Government when it comes to football prices. Also, not trying to cause a diplomatic row here, but didn't do amazingly, Scotland, did they? So you could argue, but anyway, let's not get into that. Coming up after 8, I'm going to be discussing Prince Harry, and I'm going to be trying to persuade you that we should be footing the bill for his entire security. If we can pay for lifetime security for a Prime Minister who lasted less time than a lettuce, then we can pay for someone who did 2 tours of Afghanistan and was born into the royal family. Anyway, that's my view. Coming up after 8, feel free to challenge me. We're talking about asylum and the pamphlet that has been issued. And Anthony's on the line in Preston. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Henry. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you, sir. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a really, really difficult subject. It's obviously very, very hot in the press. Very, a lot of temperature around it because people are passionate about immigration. It's a very hot subject.
Yep.
People immediately think when we talk immigration and that these, people are getting pamphlets that we have foreign invaders coming to our shores ready to rape our women, and this is terrifying.
And we often hear that horrible phrase of fighting aged men, which I really hate when I sort of wince when I hear that.
Absolutely. That's often the thing that's said. Now, the fact of the matter is, rapists do not stand there on the shores with a big sign that say, "Oh, I'm a rapist. Yep. Which box do I go in? Which way do I go?" And we certainly don't stand at the shore going, "Oh, sorry, if you are a rapist, could you not come into the country, please?" When we travel abroad to any other country, we often get a pamphlet that says, these are the cultures and norms. You have, I think, famously, the peace symbol means peace in some countries, and it's a swear in other countries. I can't think what countries they are. But so there are cultural differences that need explaining and people understanding. When it comes to rapists...
I also don't think... Sorry to interrupt you, Anthony. I was just going to say, I get why people didn't like what Kemi Badenoch had to say about cultures, but we do... I mean, the culture we have here... I mean, surely we can accept, whilst very different, is clearly infinitely better than the culture that the Taliban are trying to impose on Afghanistan. I mean, it's not a controversial thing to say that there are cultures, and I would argue a culture that values and respects women is better than one that doesn't. Right?
I 100% agree with that. But I've been brought up in a culture that respects women. I've been brought up in a household that respects women. Yeah. And I've been brought up with those values. If I lived in a cave in Afghanistan, brought up by the Taliban, I might have a very different view on the world. And that's that perspective.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It comes down to the big E word, which is education. The pamphlet is education. Yes, it is horrifying to think we need to educate people coming to our shores to not rape women and not be criminals. But the other element I think we're really missing out on here is that we're probably having to do these pamphlets because we have more immigrants coming to our shores. And the reason we have more immigrants coming to our shores and more crimes committed by immigrants coming to our shores is due to Brexit and the lack of Dublin Agreement. That's I think, a really big point in this.
Well, we did discuss this actually yesterday, coincidentally, because the Lib Dems have an announcement that I think the Dublin Agreement's actually gone. It's been replaced by this EU Migration and Asylum Pact that Europe's been working up. And there are clear advantages to that. And the Dublin Agreement did work, and clearly a lot of it was in operation before the small boats crossings. But it didn't. I mean, in 1 year, for instance, we made 5,000 appeals for people to be returned, and only 100 or so went. So it wasn't perfect, but clearly might have been more of a deterrent than what happens now.
Yeah, but when we look at the figures, let's just say, I mean, I've seen the graph. I don't know the figures off the top of my head. When you look at the, let's just say, immigration before Brexit was at, say, 10,000. The graph is now showing, after Brexit, 120,000.
It's gone up exponentially.
Increase.
I agree, and mostly non-EU immigration, by the way. But yeah, you're right, it has gone up. The idea of small boats, though, I mean, we have got to remember that people were crossing in lorries from Calais, and then we spent a lot of money, I don't know if fortifying is the right word, but putting resources into Calais to stop it. But you're right, I mean, has Brexit stopped the small boats? No, it's only happened since Brexit, but it's tricky. I think a lack of cooperation, a lack of information sharing, which we did get under Dublin, and we would get under the Immigration and Asylum Pact, would probably help.
Would help. Yeah. I think you made a really good point there when you said non-EU immigration. Really good point. Non-EU immigration has increased.
Yeah.
And all the people in Europe, we share a bit of a common understanding about respect for women, that rape is bad, and it's actually non-EU immigration where those different cultures probably contrast. The other point I'd like to make as well, Henry, is when you look at the Office of National Statistics, 48% of rapes last year were committed by people that were close or an intimate partner of those women. Only 14% were strangers that they didn't know. So straight away we're starting to paint a picture that actually it's not just the men of other countries that need educating.
No, I agree.
You know, it really isn't as big a problem as the pamphlets and the media are making out there.
Yep. No, fair point, well made. Thanks, Anthony in Preston. Good to talk to you. Let's go to Adam, who's a first-time caller in Manchester. Hi, Adam.
Are you okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. What made you call in?
Yeah, so I was listening about the pamphlets, and I think it's really frustrating because obviously you have to have the right conversation about them. The danger of having the wrong conversation. So me, I'm pro-immigration. I believe Britain benefits enormously from immigration, and I believe obviously people who come in here to seek safety should be allowed in.
Yeah,
so
I agree with
when
you.
people say that obviously giving them a pamphlet is a wrong thing, it's just from my point of view, when people are getting angry that they're giving out pamphlets then, it's a bit stupid because, like you obviously saying with the other man before, it's a general thing. It's not obviously an immigration thing. If you look at the statistics of how many women get raped, and obviously if it's by immigration or if it's just British men in general, I think you should focus on the whole picture rather than just immigrants.
Well, and in fairness, we've had that conversation previously, but also tonight that our previous caller was making the point that nearly 50% of all rapes are committed by the person's partner, or so there's a definite point to be made there. But you do also have to question if you have an asylum system where people come in and they don't have sort of our values, and even worse, would go on to perpetrate something like this. I'm just trying to have the conversation about how you can stop that, and I don't know if it is possible. What do you think?
Well, so for me personally, obviously, whether we're going to let these people in or not, at the end of the day, they are going to let them in. The system is going to let them in. So it's a better chance of obviously teaching them. Why would you not want to teach them? That's the point that confuses me, because whether you agree with it or disagree with it, these people are still going to come in the country. So at least let's take a step and educate them. So because if you go on these marches, if you look at these marches, right, the EDL ones or the reform ones that go on, sorry, I don't want to say anything bad about the party, but I'm just saying in general, if you look at these marches, what they say is they come to our country, but they don't integrate, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not going to teach them to integrate, how are they going to integrate?
There's a difference between teaching to integrate and to tell them that rape's not okay, isn't there?
No, I totally get that, but obviously it's culturally not a norm for us, right? When you say rape, I don't understand why we would stick in a culture, because I think no culture actually promotes rape.
Right, okay, fair point, Adam. Thank you for being a first-time caller. Make sure you call LBC again. I know you said you were nervous, but you had nothing to worry about, so make sure you do call in again. Steve's in Oxford, probably the last word on this. Hi, Steve.
Hello there, you all right?
Yeah, not too bad. What do you think?
Well, okay, firstly, I don't think there's any real hardcore evidence concise that migrant men are more minded towards violence or rapes of women than British men, especially when... And can I put this, add some perspective to the discussion, please, here, if you don't mind? if you give me time. Right. Was it between 4 and 6%? I think it was dependent upon which regional police force of those arrested in the anti-migrant riots a couple of years ago turned out to either have previous form for sex abuse, child abuse, rape, violence against women, violence against partners. One second.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a very high proportion of white English Christian patriots, which makes me question our values, which we keep talking about. And also, talk about violence towards women and pretty much anyone else. There's been yet another attack on Muslims today, a wedding firebombed. This is pretty much a daily occurrence. A woman was...
and we've had a story about people who were... we had this story yesterday, didn't we, about anti-Muslim hate being up massively in the UK. So,
It is massive, and whenever it is on, it happens, I can tell you now, because I just looked at it earlier, which prompted me to, if I may speak, please.
Well, in fairness, I don't know the case. You should have let my team know about this case, because
I did say to them, though.
Right, police are investigating.
There's been another attack on a wedding this time. There are weekly attacks on mosques.
Yeah.
And there was a woman that was dragged through the streets, had a hijab ripped off. Apparently, it's a daily occurrence for Muslim women. I'm not a Muslim, I'm white and British.
But I don't think having a conversation... No, you keep saying, if I may speak, Steve, but it's a conversation. But you can make that point, and we have that discussion, but I don't really understand how it's relevant if we're talking about rapists.
We're talking about our values. You're talking about our values, and they've got to assimilate to our values, yeah? Well, let's look at our values first. All of this is happening on a daily basis. Asian women are being raped, attacked, assaulted, beaten, murdered. Same with men. Their religious places, anywhere that's to do with migrants or Muslims especially, are being attacked on a daily basis. You go online, you try and find those British values of which you speak. They don't exist.
OK. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the call on that. The music means we do have to move on, but I hope you feel like you got your points across. Coming up...
There is like a hidden tax that's almost called an innumeracy tax, where young people become adults. They struggle with understanding their mortgages or their student loans or car rentals.
Coming up after 9, pass rates for English and maths are at their lowest level in 10 years. Why are children performing so poorly in these subjects? And did not having English or maths as a GCSE hold you back? Also,
they've already been effectively banned from a number of theatres. Wetherspoons and other restaurants as well have also banned people from filming with them.
Do you have a pair of these Meta glasses? Well, they're now being banned in cinemas, and...
This is a private matter. It's a matter for Harry and for Meghan, and we wish them well in the move that they're making.
A right royal rapprochement. Harry and Meghan will move back to the UK, but should we give them taxpayer-funded security?
On your radio, on the LBC app, and...
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex look set to be without taxpayer-funded security as they prepare to return to the UK later this month. The Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, said it's a private matter for Prince Harry and Meghan. It's believed the couple will live with their children outside of London. Duncan Larkham is a former royal editor of The Sun and told LBC he thinks Prince Harry is unhappy.
Despite his protestations that he's happier than ever, he's found his truth, he's found his freedom, we know all the rhetoric, but why on earth would he move back here if he'd found his forever home and was happy and everything was dandy in California?
Detectives have charged a man in connection with a terror attack in Manchester. 2 men died at Heaton Park Synagogue in October last year. The Iraqi national is due in court tomorrow, charged with failing to disclose information. A cabinet minister says the decision to issue a behaviour booklet to asylum seekers is so people are clear about UK law. The Home Office guidance warns people that rape and domestic abuse are serious crimes and gives guidance about gender equality. Social integration commentator Dr. Rakib Ersan has told LBC he feels a booklet signals a wider problem.
I think that what it really shows is that we have a truly dysfunctional asylum system, and our lax border security poses a fundamental threat, especially to the public safety of female citizens.
An academic who accused Professor Jason Arday of plagiarism before his death last week has been suspended from his job. Ghent University has confirmed it's taken action against Nathan Kofnas following recent public statements, adding that it opposes discrimination, hatred and racism. Fines for people caught fly tipping in England would rise from £300 to £5,000 under new plans. The Prime Minister's also announced clean-ups of 3 huge mounds in Kent, Surrey and West Yorkshire. But James Peel, a councillor at Ranskill in North Nottinghamshire, wants action there too.
Any contribution towards making these things stop is good, but I've got to say I was shocked, amazed, disappointed that a site of this magnitude is not one of the 3 that's going to get cleaned up immediately.
In the city, the FTSE 100 closed up 5 points at 10,748. The pound buys $1.36 and €1.17. LBC weather showers will mostly fade overnight. It will be cooler, lows of between 9 and 16 degrees. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Daryl Jackson.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Henry Riley.
4 minutes after 8 is the time. Good evening to you. It's Henry Riley in for Ian Dale tonight on LBC, with you here till 10 o'clock. And I've been with you all this week. I'll be with you next week as well. We're going to talk this out about Prince Harry. And I was glued to my radio yesterday evening when Ben Kentish brought me this news, as was broken by the Telegraph and the Sun, and was talking about the fact they would be returning to the UK. And I think the conversation then was sort of how you respond and what sort of welcome they could and should get. And it's now morphed into a discussion, and understandably so for the practicalities of it, of the security angle. And what, if any, security, taxpayer-funded, Prince Harry should be entitled to. Now, I know it's done on a case-by-case basis at the moment, so far as my understanding is, but ultimately whether there should be that permanent security. And I've got a very clear view on this, and if you disagree, please do pick up the phone and tell me why you think I'm wrong. But I think Prince Harry should absolutely be afforded taxpayer-funded security, and his family, when he eventually moves back to the UK, at some point next month, we're told. I think whether you love Prince Harry, whether you hate Prince Harry, whether you're indifferent to Harry, it's not his fault that he was born a prince. It's not his fault that he was born into royalty and all of the pomp and ceremony that comes with that. And bluntly, he clearly is a target. He's recognisable. And I'm astonished that he would come back to the UK in what we're all hoping, I would assume, is a reset moment for him, for Meghan Markle, for the family, and he would not be afforded the appropriate security. Now, I don't sit on these bodies like Ravek, and nor should I, because I haven't got experience in the matter, but from what I know of it, I don't understand why someone who is as much of a target as Harry, someone who wants to return to the UK, I appreciate he's not a working royal, but why he wouldn't get that security. And just bear in mind, there are 9 living former prime ministers, one of whom lasted less time than it took a lettuce to wilt. And she will get taxpayer-funded security for the rest of her life. So if Liz Truss gets taxpayer-funded security, and all of that comes to a cost of just under £10 million to us, to the taxpayer, for all 9 living former prime ministers, then surely the son of the king deserves the same. He can't change the fact he's the king's son. He can't change the fact that you might love or hate him or be annoyed at Meghan charging $14 for a glass of jam or whatever it was, a jar of jam. And even whether you love Meghan or not, he's ultimately, Harry, a former army officer who did 2 tours of Afghanistan, who served in armed conflict. I think he even said in his book that he'd killed members of the Taliban, he claimed. He's offered to pay for his private security. Clearly that's not good enough because the Met's not for sale, and I understand that. He shouldn't be forced, in my view, to have to do that in the first place. And I think he brings his own sort of bodyguards from the States who obviously aren't armed and who can't, you would assume, really intelligence share when it comes to the Met. So the idea that he doesn't need security now because he doesn't have his HRH, the idea that he doesn't need his security now because he's not a working royal, as the saying goes, I just can't understand. Whether you think the royal family are ghastly, whether you think they're freeloaders, whether you despise them, I can't understand why, Harry, because under the current instance, should there be something that happens away from royal grounds, his private security team will have to call 999. I think we're better than that. What do you think? 0345 6060 973. Let's take you back first to 2021 and that sit-down interview between Oprah and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Here are some of the key moments of that interview.
Was the move about getting away from the UK press, because the press is, is everywhere, or was the move because you weren't getting enough support from the firm?
It was both.
Both.
I needed to do this for my family. This is not a surprise to anybody. It's really sad that it's got to this point, but I've got to do something for my own mental health, for my wife's, and for Archie's as well, because I could see where this was headed.
They didn't want him to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
What?
It was really hard. I've advocated for so long for women to use their voice, and then I was silent.
Were you silent or were you silenced?
The latter. Concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? About how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh.
And then in 2025, Prince Harry gave this emotional TV interview with BBC News.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. I love my country. I always have done. I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile.
And today the Prime Minister was asked if the government is going to pay for their security. This is the entirety of Andy Burnham's response.
This is a private matter. It's a matter for Harry and for Meghan, and we wish them well in the move that they're making.
So clearly no answer there from the Prime Minister. Alex Bomberg is a royalty protection and risk management specialist and joins me now. Thanks very much for your time, Mr. Bomberg. Where do you stand on Prince Harry and whether he should be granted security? Security.
Thanks, Henry. Firstly, 100% I agree with what you've said. He should 100% be afforded same sort of security as a former Prime Minister. There's absolutely no reason why not. As you've said, he was born into the role. He served his country, and there is an inherent risk, whether we like it or not. There is inherent risk of kidnap, of counter-terrorism, terrorist incidents. We don't know, for instance, what threats are being made, what threats aren't being made. The intelligence sharing is a difficulty. You alluded to the fact that he brings a team over from the States. Actually, he also uses former royalty protection officers from a UK-based company when he's in the UK. They are very highly trained individuals, but as you said, they're unarmed. We don't have that culture in the UK of armed close protection, armed private protection. It's only afforded via the Metropolitan Police, but via the close protection teams.
And I read today that a known stalker came within a few feet of Harry during his recent visits to the UK on 2 separate occasions. I mean, in that instance, it seems like it was easy for a bodyguard to sort of shoo them out the way. But, I mean, there's going to be many threats, you would imagine, and clearly we need to cater for that.
Yeah, and it's not just Harry and Meghan, it's the children as well. Yeah. This is what we've got to remember. They're bringing their children over here to educate them into the British system. Obviously, there's a lot of gun crime in the States. Let's be honest, a lot of school shootings and stuff like that. Over here, it's a lot safer. They want to be back here. The King's Health. It's not great. It's okay. I don't know the exact details of it, but we know that he's had cancer. Like Harry said, we don't know how long he's got left. I think this needs to be looked at in a completely different way. And I've said for years, ever since he went, he should be afforded the security that he was brought up with. He was born into it. Like you said, it's not his fault. One thing I will say, we must look at the British press role in all of this. I believe for a long time there's been a influence operation running against Harry and Meghan in some newspapers in the UK. The same newspapers who will run an advert alongside a story trashing them, they'll run an advert about the clothes that the Duchess is wearing. So, we've got to be realistic about this. The culture of our press isn't great. It's a bit trashy.
He did ultimately lose a high court battle, though, didn't he, to Associated Publishers of the Mail?
He did lose it, but were they, I believe, I've worked in that type of world, commercial intelligence, for many years. I believe they were up to no good. But obviously, this is the court's decision. So you've got to go with what the court's decision is.
Can I ask you, surely an uncomfortable truth as a result of this is that he's no longer a working royal, but neither, clearly we agree, Alex, that he should be afforded security and protection. The same would have to extend to Andrew, the former prince.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Andrew is also, we know Andrew had a incident recently with a stalker, didn't he?
Yeah.
Somebody trying to get onto his grounds. So we've got to look after, whether we like it or not. These people are there and they deserve the protection. Like you said, somebody can be Prime Minister for 10 days in the UK and be afforded this type of protection. We need to look, from a risk management point of view, impact and probability. Do you really want to be the person making the decision to say no, or the group, the committee saying no, when the impact of something taking place, of an adverse incident, is massive? Kidnap, a death. This is what we're talking about. We need to be realistic about it. That's what we're talking about.
And you've worked previously with royals. I was looking at your website before you came on. Just talk about because the level of engagement they do and why. Because there'll be those who are scratching their head saying, "Well, if Harry's not doing visits because he's not a frontline member of the royal family, why is it necessary for him to have this?" What is it that people can spot who are in the Met, for example, in close protection that others can't or won't?
Okay, so you've got a couple of different things going on here. So we've done lots of work over the years with Arab royals, with royals from the far east. Okay, so a lot of those individuals can walk around the streets of Europe completely unnoticed. A lot of them are quite covert. They don't attract attention. Some do, some don't. But a lot of them don't attract attention. So where you've got that type of thing, Harry and Meghan are massively recognisable, hugely. So they don't have the option to sort of cry and keep a low profile. Even when they do, they will be recognised. So within security, within close protection, they used to say that people were mad, bad, or sad, as in the people that were perpetrators who would try and attack members of the royal family. Now we say they're complicated persons. So you have got stalkers. You've got people who just make a lot of noise on social media and things like that. But then you have got people who will turn up, who will do recce's, who will be there at every charity event and things like that, who will try to get it wrong, and the perpetrator's got to get it right. So behaviour detection is a huge thing, but you need a team for that. One close protection officer is not great on their own. You need covert guys or girls as well working with the team. So you create a layer around the individual when they're out doing things, because there'll be events that will be very publicised that Harry will be going to, like the Invictus Games.
Yeah, next year.
We know that'll be very highly publicised. There'll be a lot of private stuff they do as a family, go into the supermarket, go into the leisure centre, doing normal family things that are quite low level. But as soon as you've got things that are publicised, that's when the risk is heightened.
Really good to talk with you, Alex. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. That's Alex Bomberg, who's Royalty Protection and Risk Management Specialist. Over to you now. Are you happy for your taxpayer funds to go on Harry's security and his family's? 0345 6060 973. I am. What say you?
This is LBC.
Octopus Energy is now Britain's biggest energy supplier, trusted by over 8 million customers. But did you know we also do electric cars? And what's better with us? You get the whole package. The car, the charger, and the energy. So, if you're looking for some great expert advice on going electric, just search Octopus EV. Octopus EV. Rated excellent on Trustpilot from over 5,000 reviews. Visit octopus.energy/better for verification.
Switching to Vodafone full fibre broadband is now as easy as pie. Oh, freshly baked. It's a walk in the park. Hello, little fella. It's like taking candy from a baby. Come on, as if I'd do that. With One Touch Switch, it's easy. We sort everything out for you. We even contact your current provider. Plus, we'll help towards leaving fees. Switch today to full fibre broadband with Vodafone.
Up to £200 credit to cover leaving fees. More information and terms at vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
Crocs Clips just dropped in Happy Meal. Express yourself however you feel. Sports mode, stylish or superstar too. Whatever your vibe, we've got the mode for you. Some fun, some food, it's all inside this Happy Meal.
Until the 21st of September from 11 a.m. Includes one pre-selected book or toy. Crocs range comprises toys only while stocks last. Fair ordering policy applies.
Get the whole package with Octopus Energy EV. The car, the charger, and the energy. Octopus Energy EV. Rated excellent on Trustpilot from over 5,000 reviews.
Henry Riley on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
OK, let's get to your calls on this. I think Prince Harry absolutely deserves security, regardless of whether he's working royal or not. He's a prince. He is the son of the king. He was born into the royal family. It's not his fault. You can hate the royals for all you like. You can love the royals. But ultimately, them's the breaks. And he's a threat. He is seen as someone who people, sadly, in this day and age, will target. And I hope that, for goodness sake, that doesn't happen. But clearly, he's a very high-profile individual. He's more recognisable than some of the ex-blooming prime ministers we've got who've got round-the-clock security. So if we can afford it for them, and as I said earlier, someone who lasted less time than it took a lettuce to wilt, then surely we can afford it for him. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. Mel's in Norwich. Hello, Mel.
Good evening, Henry.
Good evening to you. What do you reckon?
Oh, I absolutely agree with you, Henry. Absolutely, 100%, for many reasons. He fought for Queen and Country.
Twice. 2 tours of Afghanistan, yep.
Yep, he married the woman he fell in love with.
Meghan Markle.
Now, if King Charles had been allowed to have married the woman that he originally fell in love with, we would have a completely different royal family. Now, why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't he get that protection? Why he should get it is because he deserves it. He is a prince, and I think he should move to the Sandringham estate. There's plenty of priest presence there already, and we know why. But I think he'll go to Althorpe, to the Althorpe estate. I think Earl Spencer's estate.
Oh, well, I mean, let's not speculate, but yeah, I mean, he's writing a book as well, I see. Earl Spencer's going to write a book about Princess Diana, his sister.
Yeah,
but just on that, Mel, I mean, to play devil's advocate, because you know my view on this, I set it out just then.
Yeah.
People will point to the fact that, look, if you're not a working member of the royal family anymore, then to sort of say again, them's the breaks. I mean, if you don't want to partake in the official royal duties, then you shouldn't be entitled to that protection. What would you say to that?
Well, because he will work, he will earn money anyway. He earns the money. Meghan Markle is not exactly poor. She can earn the money, making jam or whatever it is she does. But they will contribute. And I'm sure he'll have to pay tax.
Well, yeah, I'm sure he will. I mean, the issue is it's the Met, isn't it? It all comes down to the Met Police, which you can't pay for because they won't accept being given a certain sum of money, because obviously we don't want to pay our police forces, by rich individuals, because that sets a bit of a bad precedent.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are private companies out there.
Well, but he has got private security. That's the issue. It's whether he should get this Met specialist protection, and I think he should.
I do.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, Mel. Good to hear from you in Norwich. Let's go to Windsor. Oh, wow. Let's speak to Jay. Hello, Jay.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Not in the royal family, are you?
Okay. No,
right, okay.
I wish, but no, and I'm not a super royalist, I can assure you, but I'm not
But you live in
because,
Windsor? What the hell?
Yeah.
You must get really sick every few months when all the royals come to town and all the...
No, it's beautiful. I tell you what, I'm not a royalist, but you should see this place. They sell. And now
Really?
it's buzzing. The tourists from all over the world. So I'm not a true royalist, but I'm telling you, the money they pull in for the businesses.
Well,
phenomenal.
fair enough. And that's a good point, actually. I mean, the only problem with Windsor Castle is why do they build it so close to the airport? But anyway, go on, Jay.
Okay, so here's my take on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is a publicity stunt. They're running out of fuel, so this is, and they haven't given up their Montecito home, so they know they can go back. Meghan
And
Markle
they've bought a place in
needs,
Portugal, just to add,
Yep.
but yes.
Okay, Meghan Markle needs the publicity. And also, I know you had this guy called Alex. Security is going to cost us phenomenal amounts. They're both loose cannons. I mean, Harry's saying my kill
What do you mean
count...
they're loose cannons?
Hang on. No, hang on.
Right,
Harry's saying 25 kill count. Who announces
Well,
that
he was
in
an
the
idiot for
armed
doing
services?
that. I agree with you. I mean, he shouldn't... That was in Spare, wasn't it, his book? And he shouldn't have said that he killed 25 Taliban. I think he described them as chess pieces or something like that. And he shouldn't have done that. But ultimately, he did serve his king and country.
Hang on.
Go on.
I absolutely
All right.
agree. We all loved Harry. No one didn't. There's no one that didn't like him, right?
Yeah.
But they are loose cannons because we don't know what they're going to say. Now, you're not just going to need a little bit of security for these guys. You're going to need a lot more. And in the future, they're going to cost us phenomenal amounts because they'll need to keep relevant in the news. And here's another thing: if they do, no, if they come, stick them wherever Andrew is. Let's have an estate for all the bad royals.
Oh, come on. You cannot...
Stick 'em there.
Firstly, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, I have to remind people, has not been found guilty of anything. But also, let's remember the allegations against him. I mean, what exactly have Harry and Meghan done wrong that would compare to that?
Look, let me ask you, what has changed since they left? They did their flight to freedom. What's changed?
Well, sadly, the Queen's no longer with us.
Oh, is that the reason they left? Because of her?
No. Well, what's the reason what? Because they stepped back? Is that the argument you're making?
They needed their own publicity. She was out to be the Queen of USA or whatever it is she wants to be. Anyway, it's irrelevant. All I'm saying is, I'm telling you this is a publicity stunt.
But whether
they
it is a publicity
either
stunt
way.
Right, okay, but look, if we disagree on whether it's a publicity stunt or not, and we were getting on so well, Jay, I'm so annoyed about this, but whether you think it's a publicity stunt or not, he was born into the royal family. He happens to be not the third cousin of the king, he's the son of the king. And so he is a target. People recognise him. People don't like him, as you've made the point, and there are people who are obsessed with him who probably flock to your street every few years when there's a big royal event. So he has a target on his back.
Yeah, some of it is of his own self-making.
Well, it doesn't
Remember
matter.
the target earlier before this went, and I actually was in the street. I got trapped, and I was in the street when they got married. It was amazing. You should have seen the crowds. They loved her. Everybody, even I was clapping.
So did you support him having protection then?
I always support him having protection, but you're going to need a lot more protection now, a lot more, because
Jay,
he made a rod for his own back.
As sort of, revered as John Major is to some, no one's going to recognise him compared with Harry, I would argue. Harry is a far more recognisable figure than Liz Truss or John Major. Just because the length of time with John Major, nothing against him, and also Liz Truss, obviously, the less said about that, the better. But he's far more recognisable, and so I would argue probably merits security just as much as those.
No, I do, but he's going to need more than they've got, because he put a target on his own back. Right, don't forget. He's a loose cannon. You never know what he's going to say next.
Why, though? You keep saying he's put a target on his back. Why?
Look, when you say, I did, my count is 25 or whatever he said, I was horrified. I said, no person in the army says things like that. So you do not know what he's going to say next. He's a liability.
But he's still a prince.
No, give him the security, but get ready to spend a lot of money on his security.
Are you happy to cough up for it?
I don't have a choice, do I? I'm a taxpayer. I have no choice.
But in terms of Meghan as well, I don't get, what has she done wrong?
I'd like to know what she's done right. We loved her. Everybody loved her. Everybody loved her. She left here because she said the public doesn't like her. The British public, it doesn't like. She's lied so many times, and Oprah Winfrey is now trying to wriggle out of her interview, I believe. I'm not sure, but I think she's saying she was fooled.
Oh, right.
So, yeah,
I don't know. I haven't seen that. All right.
I don't know.
Jay, good to hear from you, all right?
Okay.
Stay well. Enjoy Windsor. Let's go to Watford. Far more glamorous. Speak to Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hiya, how you doing?
Yeah,
You okay?
good. What did you want to say?
I just think we should cover him. Basically, he is a royal, and yes, he has gone somewhere else, and he has come back. And yes, it will cost lots of money. But we've got a treasury, and we pay for lots of other things that we probably shouldn't pay for anyway. But we can't find the money to cover him as a royal. At the end of the day, he will be kidnapped. There will be something happen. There's so many
Let's
radicals
hope not,
going
but
on.
yeah, you're right. There are some unsavoury characters in this country.
There's too many other things. How many things have been foiled by different things, the MF, by the government that we've found and we've seen and we've stopped. It's definitely going to happen. So we have to say that we are going to protect him. He is a royal. He didn't, as you said earlier, he didn't choose to be a royal. He didn't ask for that title, but that's something he's got. And regardless if he doesn't want to be part of it, he still is one of them. And the people will go for him and that family. And it's not fair on him or Meghan or the children, anyone. It's not fair on any of them, and they have to be covered by the UK. Yes, it will cost the tax people more money to do it, but when you're working, I mean, I'm a worker, I work, and I pay my taxes like everybody else, but we throw money at absolutely loads of other stuff that I don't agree with, but this is one thing I think we should do, because you're just going to see headlines everywhere about this foiled attempt and blah, 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 and that's what's going to happen. So
exactly. We endlessly talk about MP security, and rightly so, because there are clearly threats, and royals are no different. And, it's interesting, the point about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. I genuinely wasn't trying to make people furious, but ultimately, if I'm going to be consistent, he's the same, right? I mean, he is the brother of the king. And so, in my view, until something changes in his status, let's put it that way, he's afforded protection because of who he is. And we may not like it, and you may not think Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's the most lovely bloke in the world, but ultimately, you have to be consistent, don't you? Or have I lost you there?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously he needs to be protected. We don't want to see something happen to him. I mean, a lot of people might think, yes, let's see something happen to him. But at the end of the day, he has had that status, and it's not something you can just let go. It has to be watched as well, because people use it as a target. Everything is a target. Everything has got a leverage. Everything has got, we can put this on the news. It will make headlines. It will sell papers. It will make coverage. That's how it all works.
Thanks very much, Mark. Good to hear from you in Watford. I was there recently, actually, doing a report for Nick Ferrari on chewing gum, would you believe? Because they've done a lot to tackle chewing gum. Jamie Oliver said he hates chewing gum and that it should be banned. Anyway, what is the time? 8:30. By the way, I need to tell you that Oprah Winfrey has not tried to distance herself from Harry and Meghan's interview, as Jay claimed, I'm told. She recently revealed that it went on for 3.5 hours. Oh, my God, really? Before it was edited for TV broadcast, and the Sussexes were not given any of the questions which she was going to ask in advance. There were some tabloid claims they wanted to record another interview with her since then, but apparently she isn't interested. Okay, more calls on Harry and Meghan in a moment, but not whether you sort of like them or dislike them. I'm not interested in that. It's whether you think they should be afforded taxpayer-funded security. I do. What do you think? 0345 6060 973. Take your calls on that. And
people have been dubbing them spy glasses because of the ability to film with them very discreetly and hands-free. Cinemas now concerned about piracy.
He's talking about the AI-powered meta glasses, which cinemas fear are being used to record films. But there are also concerns that they're being used to film women in public places without their consent. I see in some places they've been dubbed pervert glasses. We'll talk more about them next. 8:31 the time, the news, Daryl Jackson.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex look set to be without taxpayer-funded security as they prepare to return to the UK later this month. The Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has said it's a private matter for Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan. The Conservative leader says any asylum seeker who needs a government leaflet about sex consent laws does not belong in Britain. The Prime Minister says it makes the UK's rules explicitly clear. And a man's been charged with failing to disclose information as part of an investigation into a terror attack in Manchester. 2 men died at Heaton Park Synagogue in October last year. An Iraqi national who's 49 is due in court tomorrow. LBC weather: showers will mostly fade overnight. It will feel cooler, lows of between 9 and 16 degrees.
This is LBC.
Pick up more sun cream. Impromptu picnic. Late night cinema trip. Do more this summer. Hop on and off with the Weekend Hopper. Get unlimited weekend bus and tram journeys for £1.75 per day every Saturday and Sunday from the 25th of July. Plan your journey with the TfL Go app. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters. Offer valid from 4:30am on the 25th of July until 23:59 Monday the 31st of August. Always use the same card or device when touching in. For more information, search TfL Hopper.
Up to speed. Your Formula One podcast. Round 12. We head to the Netherlands for the Dutch Grand Prix.
New episodes every Monday and Thursday on YouTube or Global Player.
Switching to Vodafone full fibre broadband is now as easy as pie. Oh, freshly baked. It's a walk in the park. Hello, little fella. It's like taking candy from a baby. Come on, as if I'd do that. With One Touch Switch, it's easy. We sort everything out for you. We even contact your current provider. Plus, we'll help towards leaving fees. Switch today to full fibre broadband with Vodafone.
Up to £200 credit to cover leaving fees. More information and terms at vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
Crocs Clips just dropped in Happy Meal. Express yourself however you feel. Sports mode, stylish or superstar too. Whatever your vibe, we've got the mode for you.
Some fun, some food. It's all inside this Happy Meal. Until the 21st of September from 11am. Includes one pre-selected book or toy. Crocs range comprises toys only while stocks last. Fair ordering policy applies.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC with Henry Riley. Text 84850.
8:33. Oh, May says Harry and Meghan have made millions from their tell-all book, so they can jolly well pay for their own security. You're welcome to fund them. Just leave my tax out of it. And you also said, which planet are you on? Did Harry and Meghan not air their dirty laundry and made millions from their books and Netflix? They made the decision to leave the UK so tough. They made their bed, they have to lie in it. But as we've heard, there's a difference between the private protection and what you'd get from the Met, who ultimately you can use the best private intelligence firm in the world, and I'm sure there are some very good ones, but they're not going to be the same sort of royalty protection specialist branch of the Met, are they? That's my view. What do you think? 0345 6060 973. Isn't it right that we, as taxpayers, should pay to keep Harry, Meghan and their children safe? More calls on that in a moment. There are other stories, though, and I learned so much about Meta glasses when I was covering for Matthew Wright on Saturday morning, and how important they are for some people, because we were talking about Wetherspoons, just to name them. They've been in the news a lot recently, banning people on speakerphone. But on the weekend, they were talking about banning these Meta glasses, these so-called spy glasses. And I was inundated with people who were saying this is a disaster for me, because they may well be visually impaired. They may well be they may well have other disabilities, and they were saying that these really help them get around. And in particular, if you take the visual impairment point, it actually helps them read the menu and sort of tell them what's on it. So clearly for some, these have been revolutionary. They've been a game changer. They are blooming expensive, by the way, £359, so clearly not everyone can afford them. But now UK cinemas are looking at banning Meta smart glasses over piracy fears. Tom Cheesewright is an applied futurist who works with governments and corporations to help them predict how new technologies, might affect their work. Tom, thanks very much for joining us. Firstly, where do you stand on these Meta glasses? Because I read that The Guardian has said they're often nicknamed pervert glasses.
Yeah, these are one of those technologies that I think a lot of the technology industry were pretty convinced had found its time. There were earlier experiments, but it looked like the commercial case, the technological case, and the social case was all coming together for these devices, until, sadly, men got their hands on them. And a large number of men did what, unfortunately, men seem to do with technology, which is use them in a fairly unpleasant way to invade the space, the privacy, and the dignity of women. And that has, clearly caused a large part of this backlash. There are other issues as well. There are just inbuilt privacy issues when somebody's walking around with a pair of, high-resolution cameras on their face. But I thought, given the number of cameras in society now, on every EV, on every car, on bike helmets, on buildings, on drones, we might have overcome those issues now, or at least our sensitivity to them. But it seems not.
And before we come to this point about piracy in cinemas, I was staggered, I have to be honest, by the number of callers I had on Saturday morning who were saying how important this is. And I didn't know quite how the technology works, but I know they were saying, if you take the example of Wetherspoons in terms of reading menus, I think in some cases it helps people who are hard of hearing as well, obviously. So, I mean, these have massive benefits for certain people if they can cough up and if they're allowed to actually use them.
Potentially enormous benefits for all of us. Yes, absolutely. There is a case for people who struggle with reading, struggle with hearing, the ability to, amplify text, translate text, make it clearer to read it out to you, because the devices are eminently capable of doing that. Information to capture special moments on camera, to help you with navigation without walking around looking down at your phone. To remember what's in the fridge when you go shopping. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that this technology could be used in really practical ways. It's just, as so often happens, it has been somewhat perverted.
Now, I know you're not in the cinema world, and it's sort of how long's a piece of string, a difficult question to answer, but how the hell can you differentiate between people who are there to have that to aid them watching and enjoying a film and those who are there to record it and involved in some sort of piracy?
I mean, you basically can't, and this is actually indicative of the broader problem. Just like somebody running a cinema doesn't know that the person in there using those glasses, because those are their prescription glasses, they just happen to have the smarts built in, or they are using it to help them follow what's going on, to navigate whatever it may be. It's almost impossible to differentiate from someone who's using exactly the same technology to pirate the film. And this is, I think it's a very good sort of microcosm of the broader case. How do you know that someone's using that technology to navigate the wider world versus someone who's using it to invade your privacy?
Are we going to have to learn to live with it, lastly, Tom? And that albeit it's been banned from certain bars and restaurants now, but ultimately there's going to come a point where we have to accept it.
I don't know. If you'd asked me 6 months, 9 months, 12 months ago, I would have said absolutely these things are coming. The commercial, the social case, the desire to have this technology help you out would overcome all ills. Right now, I'm not so sure.
Thanks, Tom. Really good to talk with you. Tom Cheesewright is an applied futurist who works with governments, if you don't know what that is, by the way, works with government, nor did I, works with governments and corporations to help them predict how new technologies might affect their work. Matthew's in Peterborough. Hi, Matthew.
Hello.
You don't own a pair of these spy glasses, do you?
No, I don't.
All right, go on then.
I would like to try them out, though, sometime.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
a bit of a tech person. But in terms of the story of Meghan Markle and Harry, I'm in the between, right? So I kind of disgruntledly accept they need security. And so the current solution we do have is taxpayer-paid security. But I don't think that means we shouldn't be able to look into a way of making it so the money comes from them in one way or another through the government to the Met. And also the argument of prime ministers, I'd actually say that prime ministers should get a funding from taxpayers on a pro rata basis based on how long they served. I don't think...
Not get rid of Liz Truss's security and then give it to Harry.
Well, they get she gets 100,000, the same as Tony Blair, the same as Keir Starmer, for being a prime minister.
That's separate, isn't it? That's running the office, I think, as well. Yeah, that's an additional payment.
Yeah.
It's good work if you can get it, being a former prime minister. My God.
Yeah, literally, she could have probably lasted longer doing nothing and still received that. I really think she, people like Liz Truss, doesn't deserve the full 100,000 from that bit. Maybe 10,000 because she served so little time, while someone who's been in there a year, maybe 40,000. And I think that cost take back from prime ministers would actually pay for this security. That'd be something else we could look at.
But equally, MPs do have threats, and ex-prime ministers will have threats. I mean, look at some of the consequential decisions that Tony Blair made. Take the Iraq War, for example, and sadly, that is going to mean that people do target people like Sir Tony.
To be absolutely clear, I still think ex-prime ministers still should be getting security, but maybe that salary afterwards should be on a pro rata basis of their term of service. And that also means if they do 2 whole terms, then they probably deserve more than what they get.
Well, good luck finding a prime minister who's going to do 2 terms. Maybe Monsieur Burnham will be the first of many to do that since Blair. Let's go to, thanks by the way, Matthew and Peter. Right, let's go to Rob in Worcester. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Henry.
Yeah, good to talk to you, sir.
Pardon?
Good to talk to you, I said, unless you disagree.
Indeed, yes,
yeah, great.
Likewise.
What did you want to say?
A number of things. I think it doesn't matter whether anybody likes or doesn't like Harry and Meghan.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant. It's about the risk factors. Now, we're not privy to the risk assessments, but it's common sense that it would be a target. Absolutely. And the police have a duty to protect life and property. That's their key fundamental. And don't forget, his mother died in circumstances where she didn't have police protection. She had some private protection, but they're not up to the job. And how awful would it be if a son was also a victim of a lack of
it doesn't bear thinking about, does it? Yeah, but you know, the argument I make, Rob, and I think you agree with me, is let's for goodness sake sort this out now. We know he's coming back. Let's there's water under the bridge there. Let's just draw a line under it and say he's coming back to the UK. For goodness sake, just make sure he's safe. Bluntly, get someone to carry out an assessment and go from there.
Absolutely, I think there's some bad blood, obviously, in the family, and I do wonder sometimes whether they're dictating how this is being played out. Now, in terms of the Human Rights Act, he's got a right to life. He's also got a right to private respect for family and private life. So having the correct security would hopefully afford him those things. So in every way possible, this is a slam dunk. He should be receiving that appropriate security.
And also, it's going to be interesting how the press, and I suppose I count myself in that, how we treat Harry once he's back. Because clearly he's no fan of certain sections of the press. But, I mean, if Harry's buying Marmite from a Tesco Express, people are going to want to see a picture of that, aren't they? And it's balancing that with his right to privacy.
Well, he won't be doing that, will he? He won't be going to the leisure centre or to the supermarket either. That would be putting himself at risk, particularly when he hasn't got
He's got to go out of the house, though, Rob. He can't just stay home.
Yeah. Yes, of course, but it's going to be done in a very discreet way. But there's always the possibility he will be identified. And who knows, there are lone wolves out there who are a bit bonkers, but there are also states out there that would like to see some retaliation. Maybe his comments made about when he was fighting in Afghanistan.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. How's Worcester today, Rob? It was raining where I am. Was it raining where you are?
Well, I'm in the Cotswolds at the moment.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, it is raining.
Oh,
yeah,
very nice. Well, enjoy that. Yeah, love the Cotswolds. This from Lisa says, Andrew gets paid security. Harry, his wife and children have the right to be safe. I think Andrew's security was taken away, so far as I understand. He's paying for it himself. I'm not going to go massively out on a limb to say that we should all cough up the money for Andrew's security, but I think if I'm being consistent, I can certainly make that argument, and I did try to at the start. A couple of years ago, it was reported he was paying $3 million a year, but has since found a cheaper company. Yeah. Rick says we shouldn't pay for Harry's security. He's already a multi-millionaire and he can afford it. As for him being a target, he made himself one through begging about how many people he had killed in Afghanistan. He boasted to make money. This is desperate. His fellow soldiers saying he hadn't been in danger and spent all that time playing video games. Oh, Rick, come on. I mean, you can't on one hand say that he killed people in Afghanistan, which I don't think he should have written about in his book, and then say he spent his whole time playing video games. I mean, clearly the two don't go together, do they? And this from Miriam says, when Diana and Charles divorced, they removed protection. And then she wouldn't have been in the situation she was in, says Miriam, which, again, I think it does come down to, if you've been in such a high-profile role and you're a royal, you demand and deserve protection, and we should pay for it. What do you think? Last chance to have your say on this. Do you think I'm right that we should pay, you and I, for Harry's security? 0345 6060 973. If you think I'm wrong, for goodness sake, tell me.
LBC this morning on Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
The government booklet from the Home Office telling asylum seekers not to beat up women when they're in this country. What does it tell you about the supposed border force checking of these people that they get in? Let's get straight to your reaction.
This is just rules, so they understand the rules. They can also be victims themselves. 3 women a week are killed by their partners, by English people. Quite frankly, all men should be given this booklet.
We don't need men from anywhere else coming into this country who can perpetrate the same violence against women. We have enough to deal with.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Back tomorrow morning from 7. Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
When you're smiling. Banning Dental Group clinics with over 5,000 top-rated Google reviews. Keep on smiling.
I'm John Ronson, and I'm back with my new book, The Castle, and it's stranger than ever before. Join me as a mystery crashes into my own life, and I tumble down the rabbit hole into an underworld of unhinged men and their bizarre fake utopias. What follows is a twisty, darkly comic true life story about men unravelling as society changes around them. The Castle, by me, John Ronson, is out now in hardback, ebook and audio.
You want £1 million.
I'd love £1 million.
So you enter the birthday draw from Global and ITV. It's a simple weekly draw and only £1 to enter. And since January, we've made over 50,000 winners.
Yes, yes!
So enter the only weekly draw where you can win £1 million for just £1.
I love being rich!
Enter your birthday for the chance to win up to £1 million every week. Visit thebirthdaydraw.com. 18 plus UK only, no purchase necessary.
Deirdre, look, it's the Bottomleys this time, sliding across their car bonnet.
Leave them be, Philip. They're just claim confident.
Claim confident?
Yes, by doing their own car finance compensation claim, using the FCA's free tools to help, they'll keep 100% of what they're owed. I've just done ours too. Come on!
Deirdre? Deirdre? Come back here.
Start yours today with help from the Financial Conduct Authority. Search Claim Confident.
Enjoy the freedom of unlimited data with Vodafone. Save £288 with an unlimited data SIM-only plan. Hurry, offer ends the 16th of September. Vodafone.
Was £35 on 24-month unlimited plan, 100 megabytes max speed, 5G subject to coverage. Credit check and terms apply. Vodafone.co.uk/mobile.
Henry Riley on LBC. Listen on your smart speaker now. Just say, play LBC.
8:48. Coming up after 9, we're going to discuss GCSEs and, in particular, the fact that English and maths pass rates are down for the 5th straight year. And I want to know, I mean, it's the lowest in 10 years, by the way, but I would like to know why, firstly, are children performing so badly at English and maths? What can you put that down to? And tied to that, have you not got your English and maths GCSE or equivalent, and has it held you back in any way? Do you think we should be obsessing about people having an English and maths GCSE and people being forced to go through the stress of resits? And people want to resit and they think they fluff the exam day because there are other things going on. I totally understand that. But if we're making people resit these exams for no benefit, really, as far as I can tell, when they could be doing things that they're perhaps more suited to, do we obsess too much about people having GCSE English and maths? Do you think that should be the minimum standard we should have and we should expect? And has it held you back in any way if you don't, say, have an English or maths GCSE? More calls. Patrick is in Gwent. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Henry. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks, sir. Making a living. What do you think about this, then, the security angle?
Right. Okay. Bear with me, okay? I just want to say this, right? I'm not a royalist, okay? In fact, I can't stand the royal family. I think it's the biggest waste of money there's ever been, right? However... Oh, seriously now. But you know Harry himself, right? And I'm saying this, right? As a dad, you know Charles, okay?
Yeah.
Well, you might not know him, but everybody knows him, old Charlie.
No, of
right?
him, yeah.
Right. Now, that's his son, okay? And the people that's on before me saying about taxpayer and all the rest of it, right? They're the biggest tax... Look, they have more money paid in tax to Charles and Camilla and all the rest of it than anybody else, okay?
Mm.
So what? Instead of the taxpayer paying it, if Charles had anything up, this is why he left. Because he doesn't. There's no love in that family. It's all about what it is. The regime, or what do they call them? The firm.
The firm. Well,
Well,
we
yeah,
don't
well, I
know
can
that
tell you,
really,
right?
do we? But I'll take your
Come
point.
on, you know the Sopranos, right? They're a firm.
I actually never watched it.
They love each other, and they would protect their son. So where's Charles in all of this? Why isn't he paying for the protection?
Well,
and saying, come on over, Harry.
What do you mean? Well, no, but it's not about the paying for the protection. It's more about whether they should be given government protection from the Met, which you can't currently hire privately.
Well, Charles should. Well, what's the point of having a king?
Oh, well, that's a big question.
I know
What
it's
do
a
you mean?
different question. Because it's an absolute shambles. This is what I'm saying, look.
You're asking me to
Millions of
justify
pounds.
the royal family?
Pardon?
What are you asking me? Whether you think the king... You don't like the king. You've made no secret of that, which is fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion.
So can he turn around and say, listen, go there now, the Metropolitan Police, and protect my son? I'm telling you, I'm the king.
But they'd have to
You
be
do what I'm telling
paid.
you.
They'd have to be paid for it.
Unless who paid for it?
But taxpayers. I mean, we can't... The problem is, if you get into a situation where wealthy people can start paying for the Met and have Met-level protection, then...
Yeah, but he's the king. It's not me
Yeah, but it
paying
doesn't
him, is
matter.
it?
Yeah, but Harry's not the king, is he? So
no, his dad is.
Yeah, but then what happens if Charles says, I don't know, Nick Ferrari can have protection paid for by the Met? I mean, you don't really want a situation where...
This is a totally different situation. This is the King of England.
Yes.
Not protecting his own son. Never mind Andrew and all that malarkey. This is his son, man.
No, but I'm saying that You don't want the king... Well, don't say anyway. You're answering your point. You don't want a situation where the king is sort of picking and choosing who can get the security. I think Harry should just be afforded that protection, being a member of the...
He can pay it himself.
No, he can't, because he can't pay for the Met.
Well, his father couldn't he? Because he's the king.
But the Met aren't privately funded. I mean, if Charles wants to give a donation to the Met, then fine. But if he wants to give a donation to the Met, fine. But you can't. You either have close protection that's private, or you have Met police protection, which is clearly what he wants, where that comes out of general taxation.
Okay. Well, Charles should foot the bill. He should say it's going to cost £1 million to look after him. I'll pay the $1 million. So we even it out.
What do you think?
All I can say is, anything happens to our boy, on his father's conscience should it be? And then will people go out and support the king and queen and all that? Because it's a shambles. We should get rid of the whole lot of it.
Okay, what do you think broadly, lastly, about Harry and Meghan coming home? Or coming back?
I think it's good. Look, he's married his wife. He's happy with her. They got a nice life. They got probably more money than bloody they have, than the royals.
They've got a nice place in Portugal, so I hear.
They're not stealing taxpayers' money, are they? They've made their own money.
Yeah. All right. You stay well, Patrick.
Thank you, Henry. All the best now,
mate. All right.
Thank you.
Cheers. Another satisfied customer. Thank you. Grace is in Ealing. Hi, Grace.
Hi. I think that reconciliation is really great, and I've seen the word prodigal bandied around a lot in regard to Harry, and we have that image in our culture because Jesus taught about how there's reconciliation offered with God our Father if we're repentant, and similarly a parent is going to want their kids to come back, and I think that if we can, get on better with our family members, that's a really great thing.
Okay.
I'm just not quite sure that the taxpayer should be paying yet more. I think that given that Harry and Meghan probably do have a bit of money, it might make more sense for them to fund the security.
But it's about the level of security, isn't it? And you're not going to get a private firm that gives you the same level of protection that a firearms specialist protection officer, with all that comes through the training there and all the intelligence sharing, can give you.
I just feel like... it's not really reasonable to expect the taxpayer, who on average has got so much less money. And I'm afraid I'm also feeling a little bit ticked this week, having heard that Harry redirected funds that were supposed to go, I think initially to Centre Barley, but to people in some of the poorest parts of our world who are really affected by things like HIV and AIDS. He decided to redirect some of those funds towards elephants. And I just kind of think that while we're talking about Diana, who really cared about human beings, Harry needs to get his priorities in order. He should show more respect for humanity.
But I think that's a separate point, Grace. Ultimately, he's moving back to the UK with his 2 children and with his wife, and he's got a big target on his back, as do, sadly, his wife in particular. And so if you are going to do the best thing for protecting him, it has to be that Met protection.
But we care about their safety partly because of their humanity, and I kind of feel like he's disregarded humanity.
We care about their safety because by dint of where he was born into, which was the royal family, which is being son of the king. He can't change that fact.
I get that. But I think that we need to think about how we use funds in a way that maximises the well-being of human beings. And he seems actually to be really concerned about publicity and the causes that he thinks are fashionable, less than about the safety and well-being of humans. And that kind of frustrates me.
But I don't see why that's relevant. I mean, you're talking about his morals generally, which you're absolutely right to do, but I don't think it changes the core fact of the situation when it comes to his security. You may wish he was this, you may wish he was that, he spent a bit more time and money on X, Y and Z, but it doesn't ultimately change his security arrangement, I don't think.
I think in a world where there are resources that we need to use to help human beings who are facing horrendous challenges, particularly in some parts of our world that are far less wealthy than ours, we should think about how we use those resources as best as possible. And I think that Harry has kind of shown a bit of a disregard for human life. Human beings will die because of the causes that this money was supposed to tackle, and yet he wants his own life to be protected by taxpayer funding. It just seems a little bit weird to me.
OK, thanks very much, Grace. Appreciated. Grace there in Ealing. This said, in fact, it's a rather good point made that Taylor Swift got police security when she was here, as well as a police escort. I suppose that is true, isn't it? But that's on a case-by-case basis, which Harry does get. He does get case-by-case basis. And actually, I'm grateful to David, who said, Dominic says, why are you such a soy boy lefty? I don't even know what that means. And David says, football clubs pay for policing on big match days, which is true, actually. And in my view, they should pay more. But anyway, but I think that is, I get why you make that point, David, and you're right to bring it up, but I think that is separate to a member of the royal family sort of paying specifically for the Mets. I mean, ultimately, they're policing a match day on a particular given day that requires that resource, whereas Harry's going to need this, presumably, in his family the rest of his life. But you certainly made me think that. I'm not saying that's a perfect answer on that, because you haven't stumped me, but you've given me something to think about. It should be noted as well that Taylor Swift's 2024 Eras tour? You can tell I'm a fan. Generated an estimated £1 billion boost to the UK economy, but then we're told the Royals generate money to our economy as well, so you're sort of stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place on that. But thanks for messaging in. Suzanne says, I don't see why we should not pay to keep making them safe. After all, they are British, and we have no problem paying millions every year for security guards and police, etc., to keep illegal asylum seekers safe. Where's the logic? I mean, where to start with that? I don't know why it's relevant, to be honest. Caroline says, I'd rather my taxpayer money go on security to Harry and his family, including his children, rather than it going to Prince Andrew's upkeep of his living with Sarah Ferguson. That's where I'd get security if he kisses the ring. It seems he's either broke, lonely, or regrets his move to the US. And Donny in Bognor Regis says, I totally agree the government should be paying for protection. He's a very high-risk target. Regards, Donny in Bognor Regis. Thank you very much for all of your views on that. We are going to move on to other matters. Coming up in the next hour...
I can see the Statue of Liberty already. Very small, of course. I'm the king of the world!
Yeah, a bizarre story that a farm has had to defend a Titanic-themed ride. There's been a backlash because, if you remember, 1,500 people died in the 1912 disaster, and there's now a theme park ride. Well, I'm going to be speaking with the manager of the sites where it's taking place, so we might get your views on that. But after the news...
Only 1 in 5 of young people who resit their GCSEs having not got that grade 4, get that grade 4 or above.
Pass rates for English and maths are at their lowest level in 10 years. Why are children performing poorly in these subjects, and did not having English or maths hold you back?
On your radio, on the LBC app, and...
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 9 o'clock, Prince Harry and Meghan's security status when they return to the UK later this month is still unknown. Andy Burnham wished them well, but said protection was a private matter. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are moving back with their children ahead of the new school year. Alex Bomberg, Royalty Protection and Risk Management Specialist, told LBC he should get taxpayer-funded protection when he is here.
He should 100% be afforded same sort of security as a former Prime Minister. There's absolutely no reason why not. He was born into the role. He served his country. And there is an inherent risk, whether we like it or not, of kidnap, of terrorist incidents.
The Prime Minister has insisted foreign nationals who break the law will be removed from the country. Asylum seekers are being reminded rape and domestic abuse are serious crimes in Britain through a new document. Speaking to LBC, the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, Emma Reynolds, defended it.
We have high standards in our country and we will enforce those high standards, and if people break the law, whether they're an asylum seeker or whether they're, an ordinary member of the public, they will face the full force of the law.
The mayor of Kyiv has described Russian attacks on the city as a genocide. Vitaly Klitschko says Moscow is intentionally targeting critical infrastructure, leaving Ukrainians without electricity, heating and water. At least 16 people were killed and dozens wounded in a huge overnight attack on the Ukrainian capital. Firefighters are warning lives are being put at risk in London because of a lack of firefighting resilience. The Fire Brigades Union says this summer's fires across the capital have pushed the service to breaking point. Vicky Shaw is the FBU's London organiser.
Firefighter safety and public safety are inseparable. So if firefighters can't respond efficiently with the right resources in quick enough time, then of course public safety is going to be put at risk.
The London Mayor's team says he's delivering record funding to ensure the London Fire Brigade is better equipped to safely fight wildfires. And we now know a rail line in Sussex will reopen on September the 1st after last week's derailment. 30 people were injured between Lewes and Haywards Heath when it happened. In the city, the FTSE 100 closed up 5 points at 10,748. The pound buys $1.36 and €1.17. LBC weather: showers will mostly fade overnight, feeling cooler with lows of between 9 and 16 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Daryl Jackson.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Henry Riley.
Good evening. 2 minutes past 9 is the time. It's Henry Riley in for Ian Dale tonight on LBC. He is off again next week, so you've got me from 7 till 10 p.m. all of next week. Don't look so thrilled. I'm with you also regularly on a Sunday from 3 till 6. So make sure you stay tuned for that. With you this Sunday, with you the next Sunday after that. Anyway, we're talking this hour about... in fact, later on we're talking about the Titanic, because there's a ride... I would argue quite insensitive ride at the Gravely Fruit Farm near Hitchin in Hertfordshire, which is the Titanic theme ride, and it's been subject to criticism that it disrespected people who died in the 1912 disaster. We're talking with the farm manager in just a moment. First, though, GCSEs, and congratulations to you if you got what you hoped for in your GCSEs today. Also, congratulations if you didn't, because it's bloody hard work doing GCSEs, and ultimately, exams suit some people, they don't suit other people, and I would not for one moment wish to go back and resit my GCSEs or go back to that, so hats off to you, and enjoy the rest of the summer. Just put it behind you if you didn't do amazingly, and if you did, congratulations. I hope you do well in your apprenticeship and in your university if you chose that course. Also, congratulations if you did T-levels. But I do think there's a conversation to be had here when it comes to English and maths in particular. And this year's GCSE results have shown a reduction in the proportion of students passing English and maths at GCSE, while the overall pass rate across all subjects is down. So I think the way the government is spinning this is that they've done very well in terms of the higher rate, and they're sort of higher than ever qualifications on English and maths, and in particular maths, actually, and we celebrate that. But ultimately, the pass rate for maths has fallen, and the pass rate for English has fallen. And you may say, well, it's just 1 year. They've fallen to their lowest level in 10 years. What do you put that down to? Why are so many children performing so badly in English and maths? And then just to give people a bit of hope, and for goodness sake, we put young people under enough pressure at the moment, did doing badly, and indeed not passing English or maths at school, did it actually hold you back in any way? 0345 6060 973. I'm instantly thinking of one of my best friends who's gone on to be very successful in a whole variety of fields, and he didn't have his maths GCSE. And there's plenty of people you speak to who are just simply not, I say not academic, I mean in the exam sense. They're very intelligent in other ways, but they perhaps don't perform best in exams. And so I wonder if, and in an ideal world, we would have high literacy rates and high rates of English and maths in terms of passing, and that is sort of an aspiration for us, and I understand that, and we should be concerned by this. But let's not also pretend that having a GCSE in English and maths is the be-all and end-all, because clearly it's not. And if you have progressed through life and you haven't had English or maths, did it hold you back in any way? And I do think we've become obsessed with resits. Most jobs now require a 4 in maths or English, which is a C in old money like me. And that is understandable, but also I do think it creates a barrier to people who are perfectly qualified to do jobs, who are passionate about employment and about various sectors, and simply can't do that by dint of not having their English or maths. So do you think we've become a little bit obsessed with people having their English or maths, and therefore making them sit through various resits, and even if they go on to do an apprenticeship, or even if they go on and do, in some cases, A-levels or T-levels, and they have to sit their English and maths alongside that? Have we become too obsessed with people having their English and maths GCSE, or should that be the absolute minimum that we expect? I have to say, I tend to think we obsess about it. In an ideal world, you'd have high standards of English and maths. We can aim for that. But let's, for goodness sake, not penalise people who might not necessarily excel in those particular subjects. There are certain jobs where, it's probably good to have an English or maths GCSE, and if you don't, then fine, you're not necessarily going to be suited to that. But if you're doing something completely different, the idea that you would need an English or maths as a sort of core, I don't necessarily know is correct. But you tell me. I mean, if you're an employer, is that what you expect as the bare minimum? If you've gone through life without having English or maths, tell me how you got on. Do you regret not having it? Did you never even give it a second's thought? 0345 6060 973. Now, this morning on LBC, my colleague Nick Ferrari spoke with the Education Secretary, Lucy Powell, and she discussed this cohort of teenagers who don't succeed in getting at least a grade 4 out of 9 in English and maths, and therefore have to do the exam again.
I want to end this this pernicious treadmill of constant resits for young people, because it's shocking, really, that only 1 in 5 of young people who resit their GCSEs, having not got that grade 4 at 16, only 1 in 5 at each attempt pass or get that grade 4 or above. That's just branding them a failure time and time again. So we're introducing what we're calling a new level 1. So a GCSE is a level 2. Yep. A new level 1 qualification that's a stepping stone, a foundational qualification in English and maths, which I want to work with employers so that it's really got credibility with them, that they appreciate that a level 1 English and maths would give a young person the foundational understanding in numeracy and literacy that they need to go on to do something like a construction apprenticeship or a health and social care apprenticeship or many other pathways that at the moment are often closed to them without having that, what we call a pass or a good pass in GCSE English and maths. And it's shutting too many out. It's branding too many a failure. It's obviously having a devastating effect on those individuals, that not just their well-being, but their self-confidence. And that is not what an education system should be about. It shouldn't be about branding young people failures. It should be about giving young people the confidence and the passports to continue learning, to continue training, and to feel confident and valued in what they do.
Lucy Powell speaking with LBC this morning. Let's bring into the conversation Shabnam Ahmed, who's head of English at a school in Suffolk. Shabnam, thanks for joining. Is this secondary school, just to clarify?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, secondary school.
You've had a long day.
I've had a really long day.
Well, thanks.
I think it began at 6 a.m.
Yeah, well, my goodness. Well, thank you for joining us on a busy and stressful day. Well, let's talk specifically about these core subjects. Is it a worry that they've hit their lowest level pass rate in 10 years?
So I think it's been steadily kind of like, I read a statistic earlier today about how the last 5 years it's been stagnated. There hasn't been a change really, increase or decrease. I think it's gone slightly decreasing. It is a concern. I think one of the things that we've all been really I suppose looking forward to is this supposed change in, curriculum, how this new curriculum change might, or curriculum and assessment change might affect GCSEs and how children are tested. Because as you say, how relevant are the GCSEs that they're doing at the moment? Are they to what children want to go on to do in the future? So it is worry. I was proud of my students, and I'm sure most teachers across the country will be really proud of their students. But I think this is a real sign for us to think about how we can change and develop the curriculum for English and maths so that it's better suited for what children want to do in the future.
I don't know where you stand on this, but there's been some research by UCL, University College London, talking about, it's quite broad, but sort of narrow it down is saying that multiple resits for those subjects, English and maths, can have a negative impact on pupils' mental health because they are sort of made to feel stupid. They're made to feel like they can't progress. They're sort of stuck in a bit of a rut by not having that. I don't necessarily want to get you drawn into that as a teacher, but these resits clearly for some pupils are probably not appropriate. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think the pass rate is 21.7%, something like that. 21.7 between that have passed English. I think it was this year or it was last year. That's you know, like I think Lucy said, 1 in 5 students are passing their English resit. And, you know, I don't know about you, but if you're in year 12 and all your peers are resitting, they're not resitting and they're just carrying on with their A-levels, and you are sitting English and you haven't passed it, it can be really damaging for your mental health and for your, you know, confidence.
Yeah, but at the same time, we also want people to have those core subjects, don't we? So they're prepared for the world of employment. So it's tricky, isn't it? I'm not sure what the solution is.
I think employers probably don't actually understand what entails or what English literature or language entail. So some employers and some colleges and sixth forms say that they want a pass in English language. Well, English language and English literature are very similar. One just has a text and one doesn't have a text. And it really is. It's that simple. One is with an unseen text and the other with 5 texts that you've studied.
It was so long ago, you see.
And it's the same skill, and analytical skills.
Yeah. And maths?
So,
because that...
so people are...
Sorry, there's a bit of a delay on the line. In terms of maths, what do you think about resits for that? Because clearly that's universal and a bit of a core subject.
I mean, I think with maths in particular, probably a lot more employers would want students to have good maths results. That's one thing I can't speak for as a head of English.
Well, that's true, actually, yeah. I'm moving out your comfort zone then. And just, I mean, we're talking as well this hour, and I'd like to invite people to call in who, you know, if they want to bask in the glory of their results, they're more than welcome to. But there's a lot of pressure on young people, and it strikes me that, in particular, multiple resits, and I couldn't believe the figures, 180,000 students will retake their GCSE English this year. It's a similar number for maths. That does put an extra stress on pupils who you'll know yourself are already mightily stressed.
Well, I mean, if you think 150,000 students start secondary school and they are below the required reading age, it kind of marries up with how many students are having to resit.
Talk to me about today. What's it like being a head of English on GCSE results day? It must be it must be very nerve-wracking, but also quite rewarding.
Yeah, you're right. It's a mix of both. I started off the day thinking this is the worst day on earth, and I started to think about all the worst things that could happen. And then, do you know what? I got to school, and some of my children came up to me, and I didn't think about what grades I wanted them to get. They came up to me and told me what they got, and I was really proud of them. And that kind of it's a moment of, like you say, it's rewarding, but it's pride as well. You're really proud of the children in front of you and how hard they've worked. And I mean, I couldn't sit all my GCSEs nowadays. No, way too hard.
Totally agree, Shabnam. Thank you so much for joining us, and well done today. Please get some sleep, for goodness sake. Shabnam Ahmed, or Miss Ahmed, I should probably call her, is head of English at a school in Suffolk. Well, over to you now. Why are pupils performing so poorly in maths and English? How much of a concern is it? And do we need to do... I mean, I know there's a lot to process here. So if we sort of boil it down, are maths and English really that essential to get on in life? Talk to me if you're an employer and if you've gone through life without having either maths or English, or perhaps even both. 0345 6060 973. Do we also need to end this resit culture where we constantly put pupils through the mill and they are just not that type? They're not minded to pass their English and maths. They try as hard as they can, but they're wired in different ways. They're very good at other subjects, hence why they might go on and excel in other fields, which the likes of those who pass their English and maths would be absolutely hopeless at. Is it too emphasised having an English or a maths GCSE? 0345 6060 973 is the number to call after your stories this evening. Before we come to your calls on that, by the way, some news just breaking here that the former Pakistani Prime Minister and, of course, very famous former cricket player Imran Khan has just been moved from his prison cell to a hospital bed. He's said to have lost 85% of his vision in his right eye. The 73-year-old was given a 14-year jail sentence early last year over a string of corruption claims and allegations that he was involved in the leaking of official state secrets. Human rights campaigners have been claiming he's been incarcerated in very poor conditions and has, until now, been denied access to a doctor. So that news again, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, has now been moved from jail to a hospital for treatment. Any more details on that, we will bring it to you here on LBC. But it's your calls on GCSEs next, and it's 9:16.
Weekdays from 7 a.m.
Can you tell my listeners what is true and what is not?
Straight to the point.
What are we getting in return for the money?
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Work really does not pay.
Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app. Download it now from your app store.
At Waitrose, you know you're a food lover when 25% off 6 bottles of wine and fizz means you've even got the perfect bottle to impress the wine connoisseur at your alfresco dinner. Be bottle ready this bank holiday with 25% off 6 bottles, including aromatic Sanleo Prosecco, delicate Esprit de Bougonnet Provence Rosé, and zesty number 1 Gavi de Gavi. Available now at Waitrose, the home of food lovers. Excludes bottles priced £6 or under, £100 or over, and boxed wines. Subject to availability. Please drink responsibly.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. So who's ready for the best summer yet? Unwind in your choice of 4- and 5-star hotels in over 75 destinations like Kos, Lake Garda, and Gran Canaria. Book now and get 22 kilograms of baggage included. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust. After natural protected. Subject to availability and conditions.
OK, Laura, from the top.
When your 9-year-old is an unexpected tuber prodigy, and now you want to support her cheek-puffing talent, be a step ahead with Barclays Premier. With personalised financial planning and a dedicated advisor. Barclays, backing your future. Eligibility criteria apply. Investment products and services are provided by Barclays Bank PLC and its subsidiaries. Capital at risk.
Henry Riley on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Congratulations, as I say, if you did your GCSE, or I did your GCSEs, you did them a while ago, but if you got your results today, and if you didn't get what you hoped for, I'm not going to do that sort of thing that Jeremy Clarkson does every year and talks about how he, had a sort of no pocket money, no exams, and has gone on to become very successful. He does it every year. But ultimately, it's not the end of the world. It really isn't. And there are so many other things you can end up doing if you choose to resit, if you choose not to. Did your son or daughter get their GCSE results today? And how do you feel about them perhaps not having a maths or an English GCSE? 0345 6060 973. And what I really want is there'll be people listening to this who've got their results or who've progressed a bit since then in terms of their academia, and they're worried that not having English or maths will hold them back. Can you tell them that they're wrong to think that, and that you can ultimately go on to do whatever without an English or a maths GCSE? John's in Sheffield. Hello, John.
Hi, mate.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, not too bad.
You got your English and maths?
No, not at all.
Neither?
Neither, no.
Oh, OK. And...
Year-old. No maths, no English. Never once in any interview have I been asked what any of my grades are. Not once. I've been a national sales manager at the age of 20, earning £40,000 a year.
Right.
And that's 29 years ago, so good wage at that point.
Yeah.
Worked in management ever since then, still working in management in logistics. I've worked in America, worked in Germany, travelled all over the world, been paid some really good money without maths and English.
And there will be people listening who are very worried because maybe they, or indeed their son or daughter, hasn't got English or maths, and you're telling them nothing to worry about.
In my opinion, no. The thing that people need is confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
The thing that people need is personable skills. That's what's lacking these days. The young people that I'm seeing coming into my industry that I'm working with, there's so much of a lack of confidence. They academically, they've got the grades, they've got the intelligence, but there is no confidence.
Did it ever bother you that you didn't have your English or maths?
Not at all.
Did it not ever?
No.
Did you never think, I wish I could just go back and sort that? No?
No, not at all. I mean, my education, the period when I was in education was very poor. I mean, the school I went to, most of my classes were in a porter cabin. They were freezing in winter and red hot in summer. Most of my teachers were near to retirement. They'd actually taught my parents. They were very angry because they didn't have the cane anymore, so that made them not very good.
Right.
So they were disinterested. They were coming up to retirement point. Me personally, the education system is really poor. It doesn't teach children what they need to know. At no point was it explained to me how to open a bank account, how to deal with mortgages, how to deal with my taxes, all the things that you do need.
Yeah.
But yeah, trigonometry, algebra, which I've never used, they were trying to teach me.
Yeah, I was going to make a funny gag about algebra then, but I've just realised I remember literally none of it, so I can't think of anything. Pythagoras theorem, I think that vaguely rings a bell. Couldn't tell you what it was if it sort of bumped into me in the street. Thanks, John. Appreciate it in Sheffield. Lamia's in Oxford. Hi, Lamia.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you? Because your son got his results today.
Yes, and it's not what he expected. So this is the the first time he retook the maths exam because he sat for his GCSEs last year.
Yeah, okay. This was a reset this year, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Right.
But unfortunately, he didn't even get 4.
Right.
But I can say, he tried, and I appointed, private tutor to give him private tuition as well, so that he gets the grades. But, he tried, the teachers tried. I don't know what else to do. But what gets me is, seeing him very upset about it. His friends are going to move on, and he's thinking that he's not going to be able to move on. I'm getting a takeaway so we can have a chat, this is not the end.
What are you getting?
I'm thinking between Chinese and pizza, so I haven't decided yet.
I'd go for Chinese, but that's just me. See what he wants.
Yeah.
And as a mum then, and he's not listening, is he? Or is he?
Pardon?
Is he
No,
listening?
no, he's not
listening. Okay,
no.
good. But I was going to say, as a mum then, you're obviously disappointed, as you said, but you're not bothered by it because he will clearly go on and be very successful, Lamia.
I work in HR, and I've seen lots of people getting into job, in quite high positions without any maths and English in their GCSEs, passing them.
Right.
So I know for sure there are chances. What I think, what you said earlier, this reset thing needs to stop because it actually demotivates students, I think. They should learn about other options available for them, so that they stop investing their time on resitting exams again and focus on those opportunities.
Yeah. Well, I agree, and it's not the be all and end all. I know everyone uses that sort of hackneyed phrase, but ultimately people go on to do other really successful things, and I mean there's a whole host of people I could reel off who don't have their English or maths, and it's just not always relevant. Do you think the resit system needs a bit of a change up then?
I think so as well, because
he won't resit next year, I take it, right?
I will not let him. I'm not going to put him through that again. Right. No, there's no way. I have looked into my evening time was doing some homework on apprenticeship, what is available there but that's another thing. They say okay, if you don't want to resit, there are other opportunities. Majority of the apprenticeship, they want level 4 in maths.
Mm. I see. Yeah, level 4, which is a C in old money.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? So he's going to have to. Well, he's not going to resit because you're not going to let him. Which I totally understand. What's he doing next? Did you say? You say it's an apprenticeship.
Yeah, we are going to check what's available. I have found a couple of them, so we are going to explore those ideas.
Okay.
And
does he have any idea? Does he know sort of broadly, or
he was he got into college last year, after GCSE, so he didn't actually sit at home. He did his first year in media and games.
Yep.
So he wanted to pursue it, but he also wants to explore he wanted to go into engineering side as well, but he can't do it anymore.
Well, really good to hear from you, Lamia. Thanks so much for calling in Oxford, and I hope you enjoy your Chinese or pizza. Let us know which one it was. Jude is a new caller in Northampton. Hello, Jude.
Hello, good evening, Henry.
Good evening. What did you want to say?
So at GCSE, I sort of averaged C's and B's, so not particularly well. I was certainly disappointed come results day.
Yeah.
Since then, having moved to a different sixth form, admittedly in a different place, I've gone on to get a star.
Oh, amazing! In your A-level mocks, that would be then, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So admittedly, I didn't have to resit anything because I've just about scraped a pass.
How old are you?
I'm 17.
Oh, you're 17. My goodness, you sound older. You've got a very... I thought you were my age. Right, so don't take that personally, by the way. I'm only 29. But right, so you've done that. You've done well in your A-level mocks.
Yeah.
And then you passed your maths and English GCSE, I take it?
Just like by the skin of my teeth.
Right.
By the absolute skin of my teeth, Henry.
And what about your colleagues? I say colleagues. What about your mates, schoolmates, who didn't pass?
Yeah, so they're all resitting. A few have chosen to resit to look more appealing to unis or employers in the future. But I think the reason I've done so much better at A-level is because although the content is unequivocally harder, it's more interesting.
It's more refined. You can choose, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah, you choose what you're interested in. So I love history, especially modern history. And now instead of learning about Henry VIII and his ministers, Thomas Cromwell and Wolsey, good chaps, we now learn about Mao Zedong, Stalin. We can choose our coursework. It's great.
Very good.
So I think that's the reason why so many people do resits and fail them over and over, is because it simply doesn't interest them.
And what other subjects are you doing? I'm curious now. So history's one.
History, politics and psychology. I did an EPQ, which I actually just got back. I got 52 out of 54, which is an A-star. So
what's an EPQ? Sorry, I'm being thick. What's an EPQ?
It's essentially a dissertation you write about a topic of your choice.
Oh.
So I chose free will, whether or not we have free will.
Extended project qualification, I read.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly that.
What's politics like? I remember did politics A-level. I really enjoyed it.
It's absolutely incredible. It's great.
Well, you sound great, Duke. You need to get a job at LBC, I think, after all of this.
It sounds like the perfect profession. I'm really quite jealous of your job, I must say.
Well, it has its good days and it has its bad days. Some days Nick Ferrari's asking you to jump in the Thames, and other days you get to stand in for Ian Dale. So I'll let you decide which is the highlight. But you're clearly enjoying your studies, Jude. Do you have any idea what you want to go in to do, other than become the next James O'Brien or whatever?
I don't know. Well, the graduate job market's in shambles. So really anything that will pay. But hopefully something law-related, maybe.
Yeah, lots of money in that. Good choice. Well done, Jude. Thanks for calling in. 17. Didn't sound it. Jude there in Northampton. More calls in a moment. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. How did you get on in life without an English or maths GCSE? Did it actually hold you back in any way? Or, as I think is probably likely, did you go on and not think a second more about it, went on to found some successful business or go and do a great job? Does it really matter? Is it really the be-all and end-all? I say that wanting us to do well in terms of our literacy and our numeracy and wanting us to have high standards compared to the rest of the world. But the idea that we force people to do something which they're clearly, no disrespect to them, but it's not their forte, it's not something they excel at, seems to me to be counterproductive. And actually, I agree with this study from UCL that has looked at the mental well-being of students who fail to reach a grade 4 or equivalent in maths and English, and found that only those in England, so out of the whole of the United Kingdom, it's only in England where resits are mandatory, and yet in England, it has lower well-being. So what does that tell you? Are we forcing people to do resits for subjects that simply they're probably unlikely to pass? 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. More on that and... because it has a ride resembling the ship, which people get on and then experience being lifted up and going down a slide as if they're on a sinking ship. We'll speak with the manager of the fairground next. 9:30 the time, the news, Daryl Jackson.
Prince Harry and Meghan's security status when they return to the UK later this month is still unknown. The Prime Minister wished them well, but said their protection was a private matter. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan is reported to have left prison to go to hospital. Local media outlets say the country's Supreme Court has allowed him to have medical treatment. The 73-year-old's been in custody on corruption charges, which he claims are politically motivated, since August 2023. And Andy Burnham's defended government guidance telling asylum seekers that offences like rape and domestic abuse are serious crimes. It's included in a Home Office document outlining the rules and expectations for living in the UK. LBC weather showers will mostly fade overnight. It will feel cooler with lows of between 9 and 16 degrees.
This is LBC.
Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And come on in to Classic FM Calm. LBC's soothing sister station. Find peace in the music with Classic FM Calm. Listen on Global Player or ask your smart speaker to play Classic FM Calm.
Pick up more sun cream. Impromptu picnic. Late night cinema trip. Do more this summer. Hop on and off with the Weekend Hopper. Get unlimited weekend bus and tram journeys for £1.75 per day every Saturday and Sunday from the 25th of July. Plan your journey with the TfL Go app. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters. Offer valid from 4:30am on the 25th of July until 23:59 Monday the 31st of August. Always use the same card or device when touching in. For more information, search TfL Hopper.
Being backed by over 50 years of Las Vegas heritage means that at BetMGM, we know the importance of safer gambling.
Place your bets.
So if gambling is always on your mind, or you feel like the show must go on and on,
Good luck,
then maybe it's time to call it a day. To find out more about how we can help you stay in control, visit the Safer Gambling section on the BetMGM app or website. BetMGM Casino, the real deal. 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly.
When your daughter's wedding guest list is double-sided, enjoy every hand-clapping second of it. Be a step ahead with Barclays Premier, with our best savings rates. Barclays, backing your future. Eligibility criteria apply. T's and C's apply.
Henry Riley on LBC. Text 84850.
9:33, back to your views. So, in fact, Victoria says, I'm really sorry to be the lone voice on disagreement of this, but our system can't get the majority of 16-year-olds to pass basic English and maths, what's the point of our education system? The only thing we can do is make sure all of our youngsters have basic literacy and numeracy. I'd be very happy with that. Passing other people's subjects is the icing on the cake, or passing other subjects is the icing on the cake. Surely we can concentrate on the basic literacy and numeracy. Victoria in Wokingham. I do get what you mean, and we shouldn't settle, but equally, what's it doing to the poor lad or girl who's having to do sort of multiple resets? I mean, I think after a while you have to accept that it's not necessarily suited to everyone. More calls than that in a moment. 0345 6060 973. There are other stories to reflect, though, and as I mentioned just before the news there with Daryl, the owners of a Titanic-themed ride have defended it after criticism that it disrespected those who died in the 1912 disaster that saw more than 1,500 people drown when the ship struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic while on its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York. There is a Titanic ride at Gravely Fruit Farm near Hitchin in Hertfordshire, which sees the replica ship lift at one end to slide customers downwards, resembling the sinking of an ocean liner. Well, you could say the company's in deep ship about this. Let's speak with William Campbell-Gray, who is manager of Gravely Fruit Farm near Hitchin, where the ride is based. William, thank you for joining us. Do you understand why you're being criticised?
Yes, initially we didn't, but I do have a bit of a sympathy towards it. Yes, but the reality is it's never. It's probably from naivety, but the reality is we never had any intention of it being making light of the dead at all. It really is just a children's ride, and hopefully while they're doing it, they can be educated in Titanic.
Why is it not called the Big Tipper, though? Because I read that's what it was called, and then it got changed back.
No. So what we started with Titanic,
right?
And then initially when we released it in social media, it got a bit of backlash, and we panicked. We changed it to the Big Tipper.
Yeah.
And we got way more backlash for changing it from the Big Tipper to the Big Tipper. Huge. We got to the point where my wife, who does the social media, got death threats saying, "I cannot believe you're giving in to wokes." It got really quite intense, and we thought, you know what, we had to think about it, and we thought, actually, no, let's keep it as Titanic and change it back to Titanic from the Big Tipper.
Do you think there is an element of snowflakery or wokeness when it comes to this?
I I mean, I think there is a tiny bit of an element of that, yes. Not that we had any intention of offending anyone at all, but yeah, there seems to be what really has shown, especially from changing it from Titanic to the Big Tipper and back again, is that it is the vast minority. And if you look, we've had a lot of media coverage over these coming days, and if you look at the comments, the vast majority of the comments are, backing us. So I feel like we're with the majority.
Couldn't you have chosen another ship like the Mary Celeste or Pirates of the Caribbean or something? I mean, this is one where, as you know, 1,500 people died, including 60 children, and you're charging them £2 a pot to go and be thrown out on a slide.
Well, we could have done, but as I said before, we had no intention of offending anyone, and it's you could look at it as we're keeping the memory of Titanic alive.
But how? I mean, are you teaching them about the Titanic while they're on board?
Well, it's inherently educational. Of course it is. If you're a 6-year-old child and you're walking up to a ship that you know nothing about, it says Titanic on it, and they say, "Oh, what's Titanic?" Then they'll go, "Oh," the parents or whoever's there might go, "Right, the Titanic, and this is the disaster." Of course it's keeping the memory alive. If you don't know about Titanic and you see it says Titanic on it, you're being educated.
What do you find with the... presumably it's kids, right, who go on this ride. Would you... a lot of them... Oh, and adults, okay. Do you get... I'm not saying obsessives in a bad way, but people who are very well read on the Titanic, do they sort of flock to your farm to try this ride?
And these are the people, when we changed it from Titanic to Big Tipper, a lot of people came to us and said, well, actually, my son, who some of them were autistic, and is absolutely obsessed with Titanic, and you've completely ruined it. We were going to visit the farm, and it's something that he really wanted to come and do and be involved with. And it was part of the reason why we changed it back, actually, because there is it's not just a disaster. It's cultural now. Titanic is it's part of culture now. It was a disaster, and I appreciate that it can offend some people, but it's also lovely that people have so many facts about it and love it in such a way that they can come and enjoy it.
And I'm reading some of the comments. You'll have seen this as well. People saying it's desensitized. Kids that age died on the Titanic, and you're turning it into a fun attraction. Sorry, no, thank you. Another saying the Titanic film didn't make the act of the ship sinking the fun part. I mean, if you want to learn about the Titanic, there's the quarter in Belfast, isn't there? And people would say, just for the aggro, why not just change the name or the colour?
Because we did that and we got more aggro.
But through people who are now enjoying the ride. I mean, it's sort of who you give into, isn't it? I mean...
Well, exactly. And I think I went on Jeremy Vine's show, and he said, and he said you've sort of been morphed into a tennis ball, which I feel like I am. I'm being smacked from one side to the next. Well, it's who you give into, and we've as a company we've decided that we've made the right decision from the backlash we got from changing it in the first place.
Well, I take credit to you as well for coming on here and other programmes as you reference, because you're right. You could sort of put your head in the sand, but I think it's really good that you're sort of coming out and defending it and saying your side of the story. So we're really grateful for that.
Thank you.
So the overall point here is you understand the concern and that some people will be offended, but ultimately you think it does more good through educational purposes than harm.
Yes, and as I said, people have used it and said, well, why don't you change the name? But the reality is we have, and we've tried changing the name, and actually from the backlash we got from changing the name from Titanic to the Big Tipper, we've realised that actually it was much better as Titanic. And, the reality is there's now inflatable slides. There's an inflatable slide in Belfast. We had someone come from Ireland the other day, and he said, yeah, there's now an inflatable slide in Belfast. There's the Titanic.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there's an inflatable slide in Belfast, and he was like, yeah, we've got one of them there. And there's the Titanic, which is the musical. I know it's not. Is taking the mick out Titanic. I mean, the reality is, how far does it go? We've got people playing World War I games, World War II games, killing each other and laughing about it with headsets on. There's even reference to the Holocaust in the World War II Call of Duty, one of the largest franchises in the country, in the world probably, for gaming. And, the reality is, do we stop all that because, we're being sensitive about all the people who died, or do we carry on and learn about it?
It's a fair point.
And educate it.
The only thing I didn't agree with, I'll be honest, is when in the statement you said, if we could talk to the ghosts of the people who drowned over 100 years ago when the ship went down, if they knew there was a children's slide made in their memory that gives a lot of pleasure to so many people, it would be met with a kindly smile. I mean, we obviously don't know that, and the idea that you would talk to the ghosts of people who died in the Titanic and they'd approve of this is a strange comment to make, I would say.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. All right, well, fair enough. Well, thanks for coming on. William, I'm not being sarcastic, I really appreciate your time, and you've explained it very well. William Campbell-Gray is manager of the Gravely Fruit Farm near Hitchin, where this ride is based. And I imagine they've got many other rides as well, by the way. It's not just this, and it looks very popular. From what I read, it's hugely popular as well, and I see it's even made the New York 7-3. We're talking, though, about GCSEs, and I'm grateful to Mark, who's a first-time caller in... Is it called Street?
Yes, it's Street in Somerset.
I've never heard of it. Whereabouts is it?
Right next to Glastonbury.
Oh, right.
And it has Clark's Village there, which is...
very nice. You've got a
big
year
outlet
off from
store.
Glastonbury this year, haven't you? Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, well, we have. And then we're back there next year.
Oh, very nice.
On those things.
Talk to me about GCSEs then.
So I was one of these children, and I have now, my whole life project is battling exactly what you're talking about now, and I personally fund it because I wasn't one of these children that got the marks that they said, because we're going back to the days when you could automatically get into schools if your sibling was ahead of you. And me and my brother are both adopted from different parents, and my brother's very intelligent. I mean, now he's the chair of one of the... He's the chair of standards of security of Europe and things like that. So he's quite high. Where there's me, that's not good. I'm very good with my hands. Academic is not my thing. I'm hands-on and physical. So I went through this school that I got in because of my brother. They didn't like me a lot, and they told me I wouldn't be anything because I was dyslexic. And it became a battle and a passion of my life. So when I left school, I've done magic all my life, but when I left school, I performed in Covent Garden for many years. Yeah, magic.
What do you do?
Yeah,
I can't ask you that. The magicians get very annoyed. But what's your best trick or best bit of magic?
Well, I've designed a lot of different magic. I designed some of the tricks that fooled Penn and Teller on the Fool Us show, and I've been across to Vegas.
Is it Stephen Mulhern's really into his magic as well, I think, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He's part of the magic circle.
He's actually, and he's over my neck of the woods. They're based over Minehead. Up the other end of thing. But so
you don't need a GCSE in English and maths to get into magic, basically?
No, you don't. But what happened was when I finished school, I then set up a circus, and I toured the country with a circus. And I've got a friend that's Aspergic, and he actually fell off the education system when he was 15 because he was bullied out of education. So he didn't get his thing there.
Right.
I have now always set aside that we are now a CIC as a circus, and we self-fund because I'm dyslexic, he's Asperger. We can't fill out any of these funding forms, even though we can do funding and grants. We have won High Sheriff Awards for what we do, which is from the King's offices.
Wow.
We have actually personally spent a few £100,000 now on buying land in Somerset, which we're developing into work experience land where we can take young people on with us that maybe have fallen off the education system, didn't quite get the awards they do. They do a 2-week course with us and work towards a national recognised Arts Award, which is equivalent to a GCSE.
And what's that? Sorry, what goes into that? What's it called? The National...
It's a National Recognised Arts Award.
And what do you have to do for that?
Various things. It's various things they come and do with us. We're still developing it at the moment. We've just spent a few £100,000 on it. It won't be fully launched until next year. We're working with the current High Sheriffs on it and the parent carer forums of Somerset, and but we're personally funding it. I literally put my own money into it because I have this thing about all these funding and grants. They make it all there, but you've got to be a scientist to even be able to get them. So they come with us. They do everything with us. From if they want to do wildlife, I've got that on the land, but we do from the circus, from performing to sound to lights to first aid training to food hygiene certificates to fire marshalling. When we put them through all these different courses and different things with us to help them realise that it isn't. It's not the be all and end all to have these things, because some people don't connect with it. And I'm very passionate about it because I've made all my money in my life without having my GCSE because I just didn't quite get with it. And being academic these days is hard for kids. They feel like, that if they don't get it, they felt like all they can do is push trolleys and volunteer in charity shops. That's kind of the outcome they give you.
Yeah.
So we've got a whole project that we take kids on to to show them that you can live your dream. I've done it. My business partner's done it.
Well, credit to you.
Are there to say
Credit to you.
that
And it's
we can do
interesting
it.
how you've done something so different to your brother, who's chairing sort of a European security whatever, and you're running a circus. Not that I'm diminishing what you do, but it's incredible, isn't it? There's sort of both sides of it.
I mean, we're just about to open in Yeovil tomorrow, which is another place in Somerset. And some of the young people that we work with, they actually will be performing in our show tomorrow. We have some of them that run the front of house, the backstage, the candy floss, the popcorn, the sound, the lights, just to build their personal skills, to give them self-confidence, and we help them get into mainstream work. And we line up potential employers or career developers with them, and we will work alongside to help them get there, because though you don't need the GCSEs, they make it all this red tape to do GCSEs. But I tell you, I've never had to use it in life, and the kids and the young people that I work with, they are very successful that I've worked with in the last few years now. I mean, some of them are just in their early 20s, and one of them just bought a house couple of months, and I know that's a tough thing to do, and he doesn't have GCSEs.
Yeah.
So he worked alongside with us and got through. I think talent through. I mean, look at the education system on drama. 75% is writing, 25% performing.
I know, it's a nightmare. I remember doing that. It's the same as A-level as well. I did drama at A-level. It explains a lot, doesn't it? But I did drama at A-level. And it's the same. So much of it is writing. You think you're just going to... sort of run around on the, I was going to say prance around on the stage here, but run around on the stage, and you're not judged on that. You're judged on the written work, which actually, from my experience, certainly made it really difficult. But we got through it. Mark, let you get back to the circus in Yeovil. Hope you're well. Thank you for calling in. More calls in a moment.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, Ben Kentish.
The Home Office has given asylum seekers a pamphlet reminding them not to rape women or harass strangers. Is this a sign we've got a serious problem? Plus, Andy Burnham's told to stop pretending to be working class.
Ben Kentish at 10. Listen on our free Global Player app or the LBC app.
Brands that use radio are 49% more likely to get noticed. Amplify your advertising at radiocentre.org. Assuming you want to get noticed.
At Amazon, over 50% of deliveries now come with less packaging or with no added packaging at all. It's a difference you'll notice on your doorstep, where you chat with friends, where your neighbour's daughter practices guitar, and where we deliver your new noise-cancelling headphones in the manufacturer's packaging. Much better. Reduced packaging from Amazon. We're delivering change where it matters, on your doorstep. Based on 2025 Amazon packaging data across the UK and EU.
At Waitrose, you know you're a food lover when 25% off 6 bottles of wine and fizz means you've even got the perfect bottle to impress the wine connoisseur at your alfresco dinner. Be bottle ready this bank holiday with 25% off 6 bottles, including aromatic Sanleo Prosecco, delicate Esprit de Bougonnet Provence Rosé, and zesty No. 1 Gavi de Gavi. Available now at Waitrose, the home of food lovers. Excludes bottles priced £6 or under, £100 or over, and boxed wines. Subject to availability. Please drink responsibly.
Switching to Vodafone full fibre broadband is now as easy as pie. Oh, freshly baked. It's a walk in the park. Hello, little fella. It's like taking candy from a baby. Come on, as if I'd do that. With One Touch Switch, it's easy. We sort everything out for you. We even contact your current provider. Plus, we'll help towards leaving fees. Switch today to full fibre broadband with Vodafone.
Up to £200 credit to cover leaving fees. More information and terms at vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
A message from TfL for drivers, motorcyclists and cyclists. Before you turn, look around. Is there someone crossing or waiting to cross at the junction? You now need to always let them cross before you turn. Follow the highway code to keep everyone safe. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
This is LBC. Message Henry Riley on WhatsApp now. 0345 60 60 973.
James in Ealing says, how much free time does one have to be offended by a Titanic ride and then write a letter about it? Presumably these people weren't on the Titanic themselves. Well, no, they definitely weren't, because the last survivor died sort of 15 years ago, I think, 2009-ish. Presumably these people weren't on the Titanic themselves, and they're really doing the really annoying thing of taking offence on behalf of someone else. I recommend they watch Blackadder Goes Forth or Dad's Army, and then they can be offended about the comedy found on World War II. Complaints can be addressed care of Stephen Fry. You know he'd have a good response, says James in Ealing. Let's go to Rachel, who is in Newport. Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Henry. Nice to speak to you again.
Nice to speak to you as well.
Yeah, I thought I'd ring in because I've got something called dyscalculia, and when I did my what used to be called crikey, they were O levels, weren't they? And then they were they were O levels. That's right. Yeah, I'm showing my age now.
You don't sound old enough.
Oh, thank you. You're a charmer. I passed my exams sort of 15, 16, but I never got the maths. I never understood maths. It was like a foreign language. And then about maybe anything up to about 6 to 10 years later, we were watching the news one night. I was in my 20s, and it came on the news, this thing called dyscalculia, and I thought, that's what I've got.
That's me, yeah.
That's me, yeah. And so I thought, great, I'm not that thick then, it's just something.
What does dyscalculia mean? I've got dyspraxia, and I still don't really know what that means. But anyway, what's dyscalculia?
I struggle with dyscalculia. I mean, I can do simple adding up, taking away. I used to work in pubs, and back in the day, we didn't have these electronic tills, so we used to add everything up. I could do the simple maths,
right?
But when it came to like
times tables,
multiplication,
can you do your times tables?
I knew, yes, I knew all that. But it was like ratios, pi.
Oh, percentages. I ain't got a clue about
percentages,
that.
Fractions. Unless they were simple, I couldn't do it. So I concentrated on the subject that I was good at. The languages, the English, things like that. Really enjoyed. Yeah. But I've never, ever been able to really come to... I hated maths, so and we had a teacher that would just sort of throw your book at you and not explain how to correct things. So
I was very lucky. I had some really good maths teachers, actually, thinking about it. Although I changed secondary school, and I found that in fact, both were quite good for maths, but certainly in the second secondary school, I actually asked to be moved down a set in maths, I remember, because I was struggling to keep up with it all. Rachel, thank you, in Newport. Surprise no one. Chris is in Shenfield. Hi. Oh, it's a nice part of the world, Shenfield. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Hello. What did you want to say?
So, my daughter's, today she's got her results, and she's never been academic as such, but she's got a 5 in English, she's got a 6 in art, she's more arty,
fantastic.
But she's got a 3 in maths.
Right.
So now she'd already decided that she didn't want to stay on to sixth form because she will come out at 18, exactly the same position that she would be in now. She might as well get a trade, and then she can decide. She's 2 years in advance with a trade. So that's the way we looked at that. I mean, our oldest daughter, she's at Leeds. She's at Leeds Uni doing pure maths and wants to go and do quantum mechanics and that sort of thing. So it's not because of us as parents not pushing her. She's just not academic in maths. And what I can't work out is that she showed that she's been to school. She showed she can add up. She's just not good in an exam situation.
Yeah, which happens.
Yeah. But now, so she's got to retake the exam again in November, but she's failed it with all the tutoring, extra curriculum, and all the teachers in the school, and she's failed it. Now she's going to have no tutoring, no nothing, and she's got to take it again in November.
On top of doing a trade, presumably, or apprenticeship.
Yeah, doing a trade, but if she can't pass it when she's being tutored
I agree.
through the whole year
but also, if you're going to throw yourself into something like a trade or an apprenticeship, the last thing you really want to be doing is also worrying about your maths, is it? I mean, that's sort of behind you now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, she's going to know less about maths when she gets to November. Yeah. Unless obviously she's going to have to study, but she's not going to have any teachers telling her what to do and what to study on.
What are you saying, that she shouldn't do it? Sort of, I know she has to, but in an ideal world,
my wife, she's quite a lot with the kids and the education side of life, and she had quite a good answer. She said, well, if they fail it, what they should have is a basic ability test. Not resit it again.
Well, particularly as she's got a 3, which is, as I understand it, is a D, which is just, it's only just shy of. It's not like, I mean, clearly she's very unlucky. She just sort of missed out, really.
She's 5 points off of the one above, but if you get a remark, they reckon it's sort of normally only a 1 or 2 point swing, so there's no point. But as I say, with my oldest daughter, she got 2 A stars and A star stars. So,
Really?
I mean, she smashed it, but this one...
Was that this year as well, your other daughter?
Everybody's different. Pardon?
Was your other daughter this year, or was that a previous year that she passed?
She's just finished her
she's university
first
now,
year
you
in
said.
Leeds.
Sorry, you did say that, right. Oh, OK. Well, and different individuals, different skill sets, like we had with our caller earlier on, who works, well, I say works in the circus, is in a clearly very successful business in terms of that. Chris, good to hear from you. Good luck to your daughter. As you say, I'm sure she'll go on to do some great things in a trade, as you pointed out. Rick's in Langley. Hi, Rick.
Hi,
Ricky,
Henry.
Sorry. Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky, yeah.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, really, hats off to your circus magician friend that is trying to re-educate or trying to prolong better education. I mean, this is quite impressive. After school, when you've done your exams, where do you go? If you haven't got the results you want, and fair play to him. I mean, I'm secondary educated. I did my CSEs. That's how long ago that was. I got an ungraded in maths, and I got an ungraded in English because I didn't sit the exams. Although I did get an O level in technical drawing and other like metalwork and whatnot. So I was quite a practical person.
Right.
That led me on to do what my dad wanted me to do, which was to be an engineer or tool maker. Before that, I actually wanted to be a train driver because I quite like trains in the day.
Oh, yeah.
But I ended up doing a 5-year apprenticeship and learned all of that on the job. And I realised afterwards that the education that I'd had, even although I didn't get the exam, I learnt that trigonometry on the job. So, Pythagoras and etc. So I had to know that for the job. And then I spent the 20 years doing
You used Pythagoras theorem in your job. You're like the first person I've ever met.
Yeah, work out the angles of things. In metal, it has to be highly accurate. But a lot of it's now computerised, of course. But I ended up going through life, and I've done some really interesting stuff. Educating-wise, I went into scuba diving as a hobby, and I've learned to teach that. So now I have a teaching ability, if you like, although it's not qualified.
Okay. Wow.
And then I went on to be a train driver, which is the job I wanted to do in the first place.
Fantastic. Well, glad to hear it, Ricky. My goodness, you've done everything. Ricky there in Langley, in Berkshire, thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much for all of your calls and messages this evening. I will be back Sunday afternoon from 3, and then also here doing it all over again next week in for Ian Dale once again. If you missed any of this evening's show, listen back on our free Global Player app or the LBC app. You can stay up to date with all of the latest news, videos and opinion. Download the official LBC app for free from your app store now. At 1 on LBC, it's Clive Ball, but right now, with his English and maths, it's Ben Kentish.
Terrible.
Oh, really?
I can count to 10 and that's about it.
No, I've seen you with your times tables. You show off with your times tables.
Pythagoras to me was like a different language.
Yeah.
And again, does anyone use it?
No, well, Ricky does. He's the only person I've ever met.
Ricky. Somehow it made it all worthwhile that it's still on the curriculum. Hello there, very, very good evening. Welcome to Late Nights with Ben Kentish here on LBC. Tonight,
we have a truly dysfunctional asylum system, and our lax border security poses a fundamental threat.
Outrage today after the Home Office gives asylum seekers a pamphlet reminding them of some crucial bits of advice like don't rape women, sexually harass strangers or have sex with children. This is part of a new attempt to try to make sure that people who come here claiming asylum understand our way of life and what's expected of them. The Prime Minister says it's a sensible step to educating people in the laws that they must abide by. But a lot of people think it's a tacit admission that we are setting a dangerous precedent, allowing predators with alarming views into our country. What's your view on it? And does it tell us we've got a serious problem?
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock, the Prime Minister appears to have ruled out taxpayer-funded security for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex when they return to the UK. Andy Burnham's called it a private matter for the couple. It's understood Prince Harry and Meghan will live with their children in a non-royal residence outside of London. Kath Ryan from a charity supporting injured soldiers went to their wedding. She's thrilled the family are coming home.
I think it's going to be good for the kids because it will enrich their lives by seeing their own family heritage, and it will also enrich the King's life by having his grandchildren around as well.
The Conservative leader says any asylum seeker who needs a government leaflet about sex and consent laws does not belong in Britain. The Prime Minister says it makes the UK's rules explicitly clear. As teenagers in England, Wales and Northern Ireland get their GCSE results, there's a call for reform to compulsory resits for English and maths. Analysis suggests more than 350,000 current 16-year-olds will need to take resits next year. The head of exams regulator Ofqual says a planned new stepping stone qualification would end the cycle of demoralising resits and open the doors for them. Maths teacher and broadcaster Bobby Seagulls told LBC he's concerned about the number of students not passing resits, particularly in maths.
There is like a hidden tax that's almost called an innumeracy tax, where young people become adults, they struggle understanding their mortgages or their student loans or car rentals. And this has a real toll on everyday citizens, and it impacts ultimately the nation's finances.
Wildlife in the New Forest, which was ravaged by a wildfire, will take decades to recover. Forestry England says beech and oak trees, which were hundreds of years old, were destroyed, while a considerable amount of amphibians and reptiles were also lost. It started when a van caught fire on the A31 near Ringwood earlier this month. And England's cricketers have built a healthy 195-run lead on day 2 of the first test against Pakistan at Headingley. The hosts will resume tomorrow on 366 for 8 in their first innings. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed up 5 points at 10,748. The pound buys $1.36 and €1.17. LBC weather showers generally less widespread tomorrow, although some thunder is possible, especially in western and southern Britain. Temperatures a little below normal for many, but still rather warm in the southeast with highs of 21 degrees. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Daryl Jackson.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Ben Kentish.
3 minutes after 10 is the time. Hello there, a very, very good evening. Welcome to Late Nights with Ben Kentish here on LBC. Good to have you with us this Thursday night. Coming up,
Andy Burnham has given some interview in which he's talked about awfulness of very prolier than thou about his Labour roots.
criticism of the Prime Minister today from one of Britain's most successful novelists. Robert Harris says Andy Burnham needs to stop trying to desperately pretend he's a working-class man of the people. Is that fair? And does it matter where our leaders come from in terms of class? Your calls on that after 11. And talking of Prime Ministers...
I was getting into the office very early in the morning. I was leaving late to avoid, it was very, very, very difficult period.
Working for former PM Keir Starmer in Downing Street was unbearable, according to his former Chief of Staff, Sue Gray. So after midnight, what was the worst boss that you ever had? And what impact does a toxic workplace have on you?
Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. This is LBC.
But first tonight, don't rape, don't sexually harass strangers. A new pamphlet that has caused outrage today. This is a document, 9-page document that's being issued by the government and handed out to asylum seekers trying to start a new life in this country, educating or advising them about what is expected of them. It's titled Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, a guide for asylum seekers, and it says Asylum Consequences of Behaviour is the subheading. And it begins by saying the following. We understand that coming to a new country can be difficult and that laws and customs here may be different from your home country. Among the differences that the Home Office thinks these asylum seekers might need reminding of are various bits of advice relating to sexual crimes. Under a section titled Gender Equality, for example, the document reminds people and readers that women in Britain are allowed to work and earn their own money. They can travel freely and they can choose who they marry. They are also, controversial this bit, allowed to make their own decisions about their lives. Then we get to the section titled Sex and Consent, which reminds asylum seekers that in the UK, quote, both people must agree to sex, and that they should never, quote, use threat, force or pressure to make somebody have sex with them, and they should never have sex with a child. It also goes on to talk about harassment, sexual harassment, saying that whistling or making kissing noises at somebody